Chapter 3041. The energy in the Dian insect's black plate was rather dense. This was the source of every Dian insect's energy. Fighting in the Dian insect's black plate would be rather difficult. For example, the Dian insect that Lin Feng had just killed. If it had wanted to hide in the black plate, Lin Feng might not have been its opponent. Moreover, the Dian insect's black plate was a complete and perfect existence. It was also an ultimate body. Just like the insect race's internal universe, although Lin Feng could absorb it, it was very difficult. The absorption efficiency was much lower than the Golden Universe sac and Golden Universe sarcoma. After absorbing for half an era. No, I've only absorbed 1% of its energy. Normally, one would not be able to sense the energy loss of the Dian insect's black plate. It could only be estimated after a long period of time. At this rate, even if the Dian insect's black plate absorbs the energy and slowly strengthens the Hongmeng golden body, it would still take around 30 eras for the speed to increase. There was not enough time. Lin Feng was very clear about the current situation. The army might not be able to stop the insect race for another 30 eras. Moreover, it was hard to predict what would happen in 30 eras. He could not place all his bets on the Dian insect's black plate. Let's follow the original plan. Lin Feng was very calm. Since he could not absorb the Dian insect's black plate quickly, he would follow the previous method and kill the Dian insects that he could sense to reduce the pressure and burden on the army. Every time he killed a Dian insect, he would have more time to prepare. The insect race's universe-devouring insect queen and universe-splitter insect king were easy to breed, but the Dian insects were not. Every time one died, there would be one less. With my current strength, killing the Dian insects is not difficult. The Golden Universe sac and Golden Universe sarcoma are easy to absorb. The time spent can strengthen the Hongmeng golden body. At that time, the absorption of the Dian insect's black plate will be even faster. Lin Feng kept the Dian insect's black plate. Outside, Shirwanli was cultivating while guarding. Nothing special had happened in this half an era. Are we leaving, big brother? Shirwanli saw Lin Feng keep the Dian insect's black plate and knew what Lin Feng was planning. Yes, let's go back and continue sweeping, Lin Feng said. Ha ha! Shirwanli laughed heartily, his arrogance surging. Let these damned insects taste the power of us two brothers. I didn't have enough fun last time. Lin Feng smiled. The insectoids outside the Big Yen insect's black plate were all eliminated by Shirwanli. Ever since they entered the Miluo wilderness, Shirwanli had accompanied him to search for and kill Big Yen insect. He hadn't done much. Don't worry. There will be plenty of opportunities. Shirwanli chuckled and suddenly remembered something. He looked around and asked, "Oh right, how do we get out of here, big brother?" "Let's go back the way we came," Lin Feng said. Shirwanli was startled. "Didn't the great Yen insect's energy channel dissipate long ago?" "I left a mark on the way in," Lin Feng said. "If there is any danger inside, Mu Shan will inform the first marshal." "Big brother, you're very thoughtful," Shirwanli praised. He didn't think too much about it and just came in. "We have to prepare for the worst," Lin Feng said. "It's best if there is nothing wrong. Let's go out. Mu Shan and I agreed to meet in the next era. If we don't go out now, he will inform the first marshal if he gets anxious." Lin Feng didn't plan on informing the first marshal for now. Nothing was certain yet. Plus, with his current strength, he could handle it. Although Lin Feng didn't think that he was comparable to the first marshal, he was probably comparable to the strongest of the 8 great marshals of Hongmeng. I wonder if the first marshal found the insectoid spy. This was another reason why Lin Feng didn't tell the first marshal. The possibility of an insectoid spy hiding in the military was very high. There was a high probability that it was a Taichu marshal and a low probability that it was a Hongmeng marshal. If the first marshal knew what he was doing and took action, he wouldn't be able to hide it from the insectoid spy. If he alerted the enemy, things would become even more complicated. He couldn't trust the 12 elite Taichu overlord squads. On the other hand, Mu Shan and Magoso Boron, who were almost eaten by the big yen worm, weren't too suspicious. Although these two fellows had bad intentions. In the mirror world, Mu Shan and Magoso Boron, who had escaped death, were recovering and cultivating at the same time. They were demons, but as the overlords of the universe, they wouldn't go back on their words. Since they promised Lin Feng, they would do their best to fulfill it. To Mu Shan, this was returning Lin Feng's favor. On the other hand, Magoso Boron was worried that another big yen worm would appear. If that happened, she and Brother Shan would be finished. The previous big yen worm scared her. If Lin Feng didn't appear, they would have died and become food for the big yen worm. Brother Shan, do you think Lin Feng and the others will come back? Magoso Boron asked worriedly. I'm not sure. Mu Shan shook his head and looked at the broken mirror world. Unfortunately, we can't go in now. I don't know what the situation is like inside. Even if there are no other big yen worms inside, the energy channels are broken everywhere. Lin Feng and the others might be lost in the Milua wilderness. Magoso Boron knew the threat of the Milua wilderness. This place was like the beginning of the universe's primordial state. Once lost, it would be very troublesome to come out. One era. Mu Shan said to Magoso Boron, no matter what the result is, inform the first Grand Marshal after one era, and our mission will be considered complete. As for Lin Feng's life or death, it has nothing to do with us. A light flickered in Iso Boron's eyes as he said, if Lin Feng really died here, and I say if Lin Feng really died here, can we find his storage ring and obtain the great multiplication insect's corpse? Mu Shan's eyes flashed. He was also thinking. Lin Feng had saved them, so they wouldn't bite the hand that fed them. However, if Lin Feng died, that would be a different story. Haha! Lin Feng's laughter rang out. Mu Shan and Magoso Boron were stunned. A channel seemed to have opened in the shattered mirror world, and two figures appeared out of nowhere. Magoso Boron's face instantly turned red. Humph! Shirwanli glared at him unhappily. Seeing that Brother Lin Feng has returned safely, I'm finally relieved. Mu Shan hurriedly took over the conversation to resolve the awkwardness. Is that so? Shirwanli sneered. You guys can't wait for my big brother to die underground so you can reap the benefits. Mu Shan smiled awkwardly and said, just kidding, just kidding. That's not what I meant. Brother Lin Feng, don't misunderstand. You saved us before, so we are grateful to you. Lin Feng smiled and said, it's nothing. It's not surprising even if you have such thoughts. If I die, the storage ring will have no owner. Human nature was selfish, and demons were even more selfish. Lin Feng knew Mu Shan and Magoso Boron's personalities very well. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. At least, they weren't scheming against him. Do you guys want the big yen worm? Lin Feng suddenly asked. Mobile version update website, Chapter 3042. Mu Shan and Guso Borun weren't the only ones stunned. Shirwanli was also stunned. However, he quickly understood what Lin Feng was thinking. It wasn't that Lin Feng was magnanimous or kind, but rather that they could cooperate. Each of them took what they needed. What do you mean? Shirwanli understood, but Mu Shan didn't. He thought that Lin Feng was joking with him. It's literally what it means. Lin Feng didn't beat around the bush. I need your help. When the insect plague is over, I will give you a complete corpse of the great yen worm, regardless of whether it succeeds or not. Mu Shan and Guso Borun's breathing quickened. They could tell that Lin Feng wasn't joking. They had been trying their best to obtain a great yen worm and uncover the secret of the solitary brilliant invincible. They had thought that they had failed, but who knew that there would be a silver lining at the end of the tunnel? How do you want us to help? Mu Shan stared at Lin Feng, his heart racing. Although he would agree to anything Lin Feng wanted, he still had to be a little reserved in case Lin Feng's request went too far. Team up with me and listen to my orders until the insect plague is over, Lin Feng said. Mu Shan frowned slightly. He was a well-known figure among the top-notch universe rulers. Not many people in the entire Hongming Ocean would dare to speak to him like this. Everyone in the Dragon Mountain region would respectfully address him as Brother Shan. Now, he had to listen to the orders of a Yuan Venerate? Mu Shan didn't feel too good about this. However, when he recalled the battle between Lin Feng and the great Yen Worm and his extraordinary strength, Mu Shan felt at ease. Lin Feng was indeed stronger than him. Even if they formed a team, it was only natural that the strongest person would be the leader. When will the insect plague end? If it never ends, or if the insect plague intensifies and the army is unable to resist, so what if the Taichu falls? Mu Shan asked bluntly. 100 eras, Lin Feng replied. A gentleman's word. Mu Shan's eyes lit up. A whip on a fast horse. Lin Feng and Mu Shan high-fived each other. Although their daos were different, benefits came first, and they each took what they needed. To Mu Shan, even if Lin Feng wanted him to slaughter a planet and make an enemy out of a faction, he didn't mind. As long as he could obtain the complete corpse of the big yen insect, he was willing to pay any price. To Lin Feng, a great yen insect was nothing. His foundation in all aspects was already saturated, so the great yen insect's golden cosmos and golden universal pouch were no longer a necessity. If he only wanted to strengthen the Hongming golden body, the great yen insect's black disk would be even better. One great yen insect in exchange for the lives of 2 top-tier universe masters was a good deal. Lin Feng was certain that Mu Shan and Isoboron were not insectoid spies. Just this point alone was enough. Moreover, Mu Shan and Isoboron were strong enough to be of help. Nominally, I'm on your team. Lin Feng didn't want to attract attention. Okay. Mu Shan was the captain of Taichu's elite 9th team, and he led the Universe Masters of Dragon Mountain region. Tell me everything you know about the findings of the 12 Taichu elite teams. Lin Feng had always believed that the amount of power one had was equal to the amount of responsibility one had to shoulder. That day, when he entered Miluo To Realm, he was only doing his part. Now that he had enough power, he couldn't shirk his responsibility and do his best to help the army quell the insect disaster. When he parted ways with Kalar and Hongmeng, Lin Feng wanted to know more about the insectoids, but it would be inconvenient for him to communicate with the other 12 Taichu elite teams and act together. It was much more convenient for him to do things alone. Now that he was part of Mu Shan's 9th team, Lin Feng could use his own methods to investigate the insectoids and uncover the truth. Okay. Mu Shan didn't mind Lin Feng's commanding tone. As long as he could get the complete corpse of the great yen insect, even if Lin Feng scolded him, he would endure it. Not to mention, this was what he had promised Lin Feng. He was now a team member and had to listen to the captain. Immediately, Mu Shan told him everything they had discovered since they entered the Miluo wilderness. Unlike Lin Feng, the 12 Taichu elite teams had always been in contact. Apart from a few important discoveries that everyone kept to themselves, the rest was shared information. Whether this information was useful or not, to Lin Feng, knowing was better than not knowing. The insectoid commander has never shown himself, and the great yen insects have never been tyrannical in the Miluo wilderness. Miluo Ice River is very important, and the insectoids have never been seen there. Fan Zhu has never appeared. There was a lot of content and a lot of information. Although it was very ordinary and he couldn't see anything now, if he thought deeper, there was often something worth thinking about. For example, Miluo Ice River, this endless river that ran through the Miluo To realm, why didn't the insectoids appear? For example, why didn't Fan Zhu, the strongest of the Taichu, who always carried the Taichu on his shoulders, appear? There were too many questions. The reason he couldn't connect now was because he knew too little. Let's go. Lin Feng carefully digested all the information. He already had an idea in his heart. including whether the 12 groups of absolute beginning sovereigns were suspicious. "Where are we going?" Mu Shan asked. "To kill the great yen insect." Lin Feng's answer was very direct. Mu Shan and Gusoboroon were dumbfounded. Kill the great yen insect? Where was the great yen insect? Mu Shan's heart was filled with endless curiosity. He really wanted to know how Lin Feng found the great yen insect. Even he and all the other Taichu elite teams couldn't find the great yen insect, but Lin Feng could easily find one after another. Mu Shan's curiosity couldn't be answered because he didn't understand how Lin Feng found it. In any case, he found it inexplicably. Mu Shan's eyes widened, and Gusoboroon beside him also stared blankly at another great yen insect. Not only that, but this great yen insect also foolishly attacked Lin Feng, and then was killed by Lin Feng. It was like fishing. With a flick of the fishing rod, he directly caught a big fish. One could be a coincidence, but what about 2, 3, 4? Mu Shan and Gusoboroon were completely dumbfounded. Lin Feng seemed to be performing as he galloped through the vast Miluo wilderness, hunting one great yen insect after another. They didn't know that there were so many great yen insects hidden in the Miluo wilderness, but none of them could escape from Lin Feng's demonic claws. Their eyes widened as they watched. Seeing Lin Feng kill the great yen insects one by one, Mu Shan gulped. He wanted to say something a few times, but he held back. Right now, he wasn't worried that Lin Feng wouldn't give him a great yen insect, because to Lin Feng, a great yen insect wasn't even worth mentioning. In his storage ring, there were at least 2 great yen insect corpses. Too crazy. Mu Shan looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. How many secrets did this human have? Something that even the army couldn't do. He easily did it alone. The tyrannical insect plague, it couldn't be Lin Feng could deal with it alone, right? Chapter 3043. It was too easy. Mu Shan had never thought that killing the yen bugs would be so easy. It was as if the bugs were just waiting there for Lin Feng to kill. Was this the bug that had wreaked havoc on the Taichu and left the army and the Taichu helpless? If Mu Shan hadn't fought the yen bugs before, he would have doubted if they were real the yen bugs. Every time, Lin Feng would do the same thing. He would lure the yen bugs to attack and use the illusion. Then, Shirwanli would break the illusion, and Lin Feng would kill the bugs. It was very similar to the time when he had saved them. "Brother Lin, how many yen bugs have you killed?" Granny Zwaborun looked at Lin Feng in shock. Her red eyes were full of admiration. At this moment, she understood what it meant to be one man against 10,000 soldiers. About 30. Lin Feng didn't count carefully. After all, he absorbed the Golden Universe sac and Golden Universe tumor after killing one. The ones that left a deep impression were only those that had reached the pinnacle Universe Dominator level. However, with his current power, such bugs were easy to kill. After killing the last one, he didn't sense anything else. There are still the yen bugs in Miluo Tuo territory. Mu Shan muttered to himself. More than 30. It was hard to imagine that 12 groups of elite Taichu leaders had spent dozens of eras and hadn't even found one. They had thought that there were only a few yen bugs, which was why it was hard to find them. However, Lin Feng's battle record gave them a resounding slap. However, Mu Shan didn't say anything. Whether it was for public or private reasons, there was no benefit in doing so. "I've killed most of the yen bugs in Miluo territory. There should still be a few left," Lin Feng was estimating. After all, the super black disk he had absorbed wasn't complete, and some yen bugs had just merged and were still building their nests. There weren't too many time-devouring bug emperors and space-splitting bug kings. There are still many scattered yen bugs in Miluo Tuo territory. The first time Lin Feng killed a lot of big yen worms, the pressure on the army didn't lessen by much. This made Lin Feng understand that there were a lot of big yen worms scattered around the Miluo Tuo territory. On one hand, it was convenient for the insect race to control the entire Miluo Tuo realm. On the other hand, the insect race did not put all their eggs in the same basket. Overall, we should have killed more than half of the great yen worms. Lin Feng did not plan to search for the great yen insect in the Miluo realm. The search area was too large, and the efficiency was too low. The most important thing now was the great yen insect commander. Only by breaking the head of the insect race would the war truly end. Otherwise, even if he killed all the big yen insects, as long as the insect clan grand commander could still absorb the energy of the Miluo realm, he could still breed countless big yen insects. It was only a matter of time. Mu Shan, help me pay attention to the movements in the Miluo wilderness and the direction of the war. After killing the big yen insect, Lin Feng's next step was to absorb the only big yen insect's blackboard to see if he could sense the insectoid commander. However, this process was very long and it would take at least 10 eras. Although Lin Feng estimated that more than half of the big yen insects were gone, and the pressure on the army was greatly reduced, no one could say for sure what would happen in the future. What if his judgment was wrong? What if the insectoids had a backup plan? Lin Feng still had one thing to worry about, and that was the insectoid spies. They were hidden very deeply and had been spying on the Taichu, allowing the insectoids to gain the initiative in this war. The army had a hard time dealing with them, and until now they still had no clue. Okay, leave it to me. Mu Shan also knew that Lin Feng was going into seclusion. Even if Lin Feng didn't say anything about paying attention to the war, he would pay close attention to it himself. After all, it was closely related to him. There is one more thing that I want you to help me spread, Lin Feng said to Mu Shan. Please speak, Mu Shan said. Lin Feng said, I want you to unintentionally reveal my location and spread the rumor that I found a way to defeat the insectoids and killed countless big yen insects. Catching ghosts? Mu Shan instantly understood. Lin Feng nodded. The insectoid spy is hidden very deeply, but he's still a part of the insectoids. He can't just watch me injure the insectoids and not say anything. If he knows my location, he'll probably come and attack. Mu Shan smiled bitterly. I'm afraid that once the news is announced, the other Taichu sovereigns will come even faster. They won't believe it. Lin Feng said, as long as you announce the number, they'll think it's a rumor. However, the insectoid spy is different. He knows the number of big yen insects very well. Mu Shan nodded. Indeed, who would believe Lin Feng's battle results? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that he could kill dozens of big yen insects. Moreover, the big yen insects were hidden very deeply. Even if they were found, they wouldn't be able to kill them. However, Lin Feng had done it. Moreover, he had done it so easily. Brother Lin Feng, it's very dangerous for you to do this. Mu Shan hesitated. I know. Lin Feng glanced at Mu Shan. But do you have any other methods? The first marshal has already carefully screened the troop. There are no suspicious cultivators in the army, so there are only two possibilities. Either he's not in the army, or he has completely changed his aura and is no different from the cultivators in the Hongmeng Sea. Regardless of which possibility it would be very difficult to catch this spy. Therefore, Lin Feng wanted to give it a try. He hoped that the insectoid spy wouldn't be able to hold back and would attack him. After all, he was a huge threat to the insectoids. If he could kill dozens of big yen insects now, he would definitely be able to kill more in the future. I'll try my best. You have to be careful, Mu Shan said. I know that you are strong, but you are still a Yuan Venerate. Your physical defense is your weakness, so don't try to be brave. Thank you. Lin Feng smiled. What? Lin Feng killed more than 30 big yen insects? What kind of joke is this? There aren't that many big yen insects even if you flip over the entire Miluo realm. How can you brag like that? Ha ha. What a joke. Our fifth team of Taichu rulers has been searching for dozens of eras, yet we haven't even found a single big yen insect. Let's not talk about killing more than 30 big yen insects. Why don't you get him to find one for me? Nonsense. Lin Feng is only a Yuan Venerate. Does he have the ability to kill big yen insects? I'll chop off my head and let you use it as a stool. Although Lin Feng is a rising star with great potential and an invincible newcomer, it's not good to overestimate him. He doesn't have the strength to back it up. How strange. Where did this news come from? There must be a reason. Who spread this news? Are they trying to ruin Lin Feng's reputation? I'm not sure, but it's better to start a rumor. If you say that Lin Feng happened to kill one big yen insect, everyone might believe you. However, if you say that he killed more than 30 big yen insects, do you really think that the big yen insects have nothing better to do and would just send themselves to your doorstep for you to kill? Lin Feng's guess was right. When these rumors spread, almost no cultivators believed them. This was because it was too unimaginable. The Taichu rulers weren't clueless. They had all searched the Milua wilderness for dozens of eras without any result. Now, a young Yuan Venerate had appeared and claimed that he had killed dozens of big yen insects. Who would believe that? Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Chapter 3044. This little fellow has done a great job this time. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng was pleased. Well done. The first marshal was very satisfied. In the past few eras, he could clearly feel that the impact of the insectoids had weakened. He guessed that it was Lin Feng's doing. Lin Feng had killed many big yen bugs before, but Lin Feng didn't use his communicator, so he wasn't sure. Now everything was clear. The first marshal would remember Lin Feng's contributions in his heart. Based on the current situation, the insectoids have suffered great losses. They won't be able to recover for at least a few dozen eras. The antennae on Marshal Kaler Hongmeng's forehead fluttered. He was in a good mood. They can delay for another few dozen eras. However, the insectoid commander will be more careful next time. It will be extremely difficult for Lin Feng to kill the big yen bug. The first marshal had fought with the insectoids many times, so he knew how strong the insectoids were. They weren't stupid. A few dozen eras is better than nothing. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng smiled. He was slightly curious. Speaking of which, who spread the news? Lin Feng hasn't appeared yet. He didn't admit or deny it. It's not just the news. It's also the area where Lin Feng is located. The first marshal smiled faintly. This brat is really daring. If I'm not wrong, his strength should have improved again. Marshal's meaning is... Marshal Hongmeng Kaler let out a soft Lin Feng is doing the same thing as us. The first marshal looked into the distance. The insectoid spies are always a threat, but we can't find any flaws. We can't confirm their identity. We're looking for the insectoid spies. Lin Feng is also looking for them. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng was enlightened. So, Marshal, you're saying that Lin Feng spread the news himself to lure the insectoid spies to assassinate him? That should be the case, said the first marshal. Marshal Hongmeng Kaler muttered, but if we can guess it, the insectoid spies might have guessed it as well. Knowing that it's a trap, they shouldn't have stepped into it, right? This is an open conspiracy, not a conspiracy. The first marshal said, even if the insectoid spy knew that Lin Feng had lured him out to assassinate him, he might still go because Lin Feng is a huge threat to the insectoid. It's not an exaggeration to call him the nemesis of the insectoids. The insectoids are different from us Taichu cultivators. They only have one commander, and the rest are chess pieces. Therefore, death is nothing to them. If there's a chance to get rid of Lin Feng, this big trouble, I believe the insectoids will most likely take the risk. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng was startled when he heard this. Then should we, no need. The first marshal immediately rejected it. Our every move will be under the surveillance of the insectoid spies. If we do anything strange and alert the enemy, the insectoid spies will definitely not appear. I'm just afraid that Lin Feng will go overboard and burn himself. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng sighed. He loved talent. The current Lin Feng was very important to both the army and the Taichu. "Trust him," said the first marshal. In Miluo Ta territory, the legend of Lin Feng was passed down. Although most of the universe rulers treated it as a joke, Lin Feng didn't care about what they thought. He only had one goal, which was to lure the insectoid spies out. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he wished. A total of 12 eras passed, and it was still peaceful. Nothing happened. Lin Feng could only give up on this idea. The insectoid spies were smarter and more careful than he thought. They let go of such a good opportunity. Do they not care about the threat I pose to the insectoids, or do they already have a way to deal with me? Or are they determined to win this war? There were many possibilities, and Lin Feng couldn't figure it out. However, there was an answer that he would soon find out. After 12 eras of absorption, the energy of the great yen insect's black disk had been completely absorbed. Lin Feng's grand mist golden body had become even more powerful after 12 eras of absorption. Now, as long as his internal universe didn't suffer any losses, Lin Feng was completely capable of fighting against a pinnacle universe ruler. In the first few eras, the absorption efficiency was average. However, as Hongmeng golden body became stronger, the absorption efficiency gradually increased. The amount absorbed in the last 6 eras was almost 3 times that of the first 6 eras. Soon, with the increase in his strength, Lin Feng was even more confident in facing the powerful opponents he was about to face. The commander of the insectoids. He had been hiding in the depths of Miluo wilderness and was the mastermind behind everything. Lin Feng could estimate how strong he was. He was stronger than the strongest big yen insect, but he wouldn't be too strong. With his current power, he was definitely qualified to challenge him. However, the key was whether he could find him or not. Let's see if this big yen insect black coil is useful. Lin Feng was shocked. He continued to absorb and absorbed the last bit of energy from the big yen insect black coil. In an instant, the entire big yen insect black coil was like a dead object. Hua Lin Feng's entire body was filled with the golden light of Hongmeng power. He floated in the air and carefully sensed his surroundings. The big yen insect's senses had already disappeared 12 eras ago. If it could sense anything now, it must be the location of the commander. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng's expression became more and more serious, because he still couldn't sense anything, not even the slightest bit. Could it be that I guessed wrongly, and the big yen insect black coil can't sense the commander? Lin Feng pondered. There was a possibility. After all, the big yen insect was a brand new insectoid, an ultimate body. It wasn't purely born from the commander. The big yen insect was formed from the fusion of the time-devouring insect emperor and the space-splitting insect king. During the fusion process, did the consciousness of the big yen insect disappear? Or is it that the commander isn't in Miluo wilderness? There was more than one possibility. Even if he couldn't sense it, Lin Feng was mentally prepared. If he had absolute confidence, he would have informed the first marshal long ago. The clues were cut off again. What was more difficult was that he had no clue at all. The insectoid spy didn't appear, and he couldn't sense anything. Everything seemed to have returned to the beginning. Floating in the air, Lin Feng looked around with a serious expression. After losing all clues, he didn't know which direction to investigate. His gaze suddenly stopped on the Miluo ice river. Lin Feng's thoughts changed. This endless river that connected Miluo to our territory, even the insectoids stayed away from it. It seemed to be hiding some secrets. Perhaps he could continue to investigate from the Miluo ice river. If I can't sense it, then so be it. At least, these 12 eras weren't in vain. The absorption of the big yen insect black coil allowed Lin Feng to improve further. Standing on Shirwan Li's back and looking down at the Miluo ice river, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Let me see what secrets are hidden in the Miluo ice river. Chapter 3045. The Mi Air Glacier was like the spine of the Mi Luo Tuo realm. This place was filled with bone-chilling cold, and the terrifying ice energy could even freeze powerful beings. The tides that erupted from time to time were so powerful that even the insectoids stayed away. Mu Shan and Ruzo Boron continued to stay in the Mi Luo wilderness to search for clues. Lin Feng and Shirwan Li entered the Mi Air Glacier. The tides were troublesome for the insectoids and ordinary powerful beings, but for cultivators like Lin Feng and Shirwan Li, it wasn't much of a threat. Even someone as strong as the Yao Tua King could be easily killed by Lin Feng. Big brother, why did we come to the Mi Air Glacier? Shirwan Li was puzzled. Do you think the insectoid commander is hiding here? There are all sorts of possibilities. Lin Feng didn't know where the insectoid commander was, but it was a fact that he couldn't sense it, and it was also a fact that the clues were cut off. Lin Feng also wanted to see if he could sense it in the Mi Air Glacier. After all, the Mi Air Glacier was a different region from the Mi Luo wilderness, and even the Mi Luo Tuo realm. It wasn't impossible to guess that it was 100,000 miles. But the Mi Air Glacier is full of energy, and the Yao Tua clan lives here, so the possibility of the insectoid commander being here shouldn't be high. Shirwan Li also tried to make a judgment. If you were the insectoid commander, where would you hide? Lin Feng looked at Shirwan Li. The Mi Luo wilderness. Shirwan Li didn't hesitate. As the commander, it's impossible to charge into the enemy lines. The insectoids rely on numbers to win, relying on resources to breed ordinary insectoids, and fighting a war of attrition. The Mi Luo wilderness has the most abundant resources in the Mi Luo Tuo realm. I can't think of any reason why the insectoid commander wouldn't choose here. Lin Feng nodded, but besides the Mi Luo wilderness, the source of the Mi Air Glacier is also full of energy in the deepest part. The source of the Mi Air Glacier was the core of the Mi Luo wilderness. The natural ice river energy blocked the aura of the outside world. Lin Feng believed that if the insectoid commander was hiding in the Mi Air ice river, he definitely wouldn't be able to sense it. According to the information that Mu Shan had provided, not only had the Miluo Wilderness Miluo Ice River not been invaded by the insectoids, but the even larger Miluo to Ice River was also untouched by the insectoids. This made Lin Feng feel a little strange. Although the Mi or Ice River had tides, it shouldn't be able to stop the insect tribe's advance. Needless to say, the Yao Tua tribe wouldn't be able to resist the insect tribe's attack. As long as the insect tribe wanted to, they could completely occupy the entire Mi or Ice River. However, the insectoids did not do so. They did not even touch the Mi or glacier. Now that the clues had been cut off, he naturally had to make more accurate deductions and not let go of any clues. Are we going to the source now, big brother? Shirwan Li asked. Yes. Lin Feng still didn't sense anything in the Mi or glacier. The absorption of the Great Yen insect black disk seemed to have no effect at all. Lin Feng had also considered whether the insectoid commander was in the Miluo Tua territory. There was indeed a possibility. However, the Miluo Tua territory was so big. If the insectoid commander was really hiding in a corner, it would be very difficult to find him. Moreover, Lin Feng was not sure whether the absorption of the Great Yen insect black disk would have any effect on the insectoid commander. Everything was unknown. Miluo Tua territory entrance. 5 passages, 1 big and 4 small, were guarded by the 1st Marshal and the 8 Hongmeng Marshals. They were impregnable. The insectoids' attacks came again and again, but they were still unable to pry open the passage. Especially more than 10 eras ago, the insectoids were once very close to breaking through. Their formation had completely suppressed the army. However, the 8 Hongmeng marshals turned the tide by themselves and guarded the passage. The largest tunnel guarded by the 1st Marshal was as solid as a rock. It was indestructible. After that, the insectoids' attacks gradually began to recede. The intervals gradually lengthened, giving the army a chance to breathe. Now, the war scale seemed to have returned to balance. If we continue fighting like this, who's afraid of who? That's right. As long as we have enough rest, the insectoids' attacks are nothing to be afraid of. That's right. In terms of raw strength, we are much stronger than the insectoid. These insectoids are just relying on numbers. One-on-one. The Taichu marshals were full of confidence. In the last few battles, they had successfully repelled the insectoids with negligible casualties. This gave them the confidence to fight against the insectoids again. This was a key factor. The morale of both sides was very important in a battle. As the army was retreating and being suppressed by the insectoids, the marshals, and even the Taichu marshals were lacking in confidence. However, the situation had turned around a lot. Every marshal and Taichu marshal was full of confidence. They seized the time to rest and recover, waiting for the next battle. What do you think? Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng was guarding the second passage, his expression serious. Something's not right. Marshal Udi Otter Hongmeng was Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng's partner. They were guarding the second passage together. Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng had spiky hair, and there were circular spots of light on his dark green skin. The insectoid's reaction is too abnormal. According to Mosai, it's because the insectoid's big yen insect was heavily injured, causing them to lack strength, Marshal Udi Otter Hongmeng said. You believe that? Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng was a plant lifeform, so he was very calm. Marshal Udi Otter Hongmeng said, It's true that the insectoid's big yen insect was heavily injured, but I don't think the insectoids will give up just like that. They might be preparing for another battle. Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng said, What you mean is, the insectoids don't plan on fighting a war of attrition anymore. They plan on attacking directly and taking down one of the passages in one fell swoop. Marshal Udi Otter Hongmeng nodded. If I were the insectoids, I would definitely do that. I have to say, the insectoids' big yen insect injury forced them into a very awkward situation, disrupting their normal attack rhythm. The next attack will definitely be very fierce. They might gather more than 80% of the insectoids' forces for an all-out attack. Because of the insectoids' big yen insect injury, the insectoids' forces have been cut off. Instead of fighting on a small scale, they might as well go all out. It'll be best if they win. Once they break through our defenses, the insectoids will be able to enter Taichu's origin chaotic universe. They'll go straight in and repeat Taichu's calamity. If they fail, the insectoids can rest and wait for the next opportunity. Marshal Xiaowai Hongmeng agreed. We need to inform the first Grand Marshal of this speculation. I hope that everyone can work together to defend the insectoids' next all-out attack. I hope so too. Marshal Udi Otter Hongmeng sighed softly and looked into the distance. He knew clearly what would happen once the entrance to Miluo to a realm was breached. Even if one universe-devouring insectoid emperor escaped, it could reproduce endlessly. To find and kill it in the vast Taichu was thousands of times more difficult than searching for Miluo to a realm. Chapter 3046. Hong. Lin Feng controlled the small world avatar, and Snow Jewel fought with a white light. The opponent was very fast, and even in the small world avatar, it wasn't weakened at all. On the other hand, Lin Feng was greatly hindered in Mi Air Ice River. Hua, a blinding golden light shone as the white figure's 6 arms lashed out like whips. However, Lin Feng's golden primordial energy was even more powerful. It firmly locked onto the white figure, unleashing its destructive power. After an intense battle, the white figure was quickly killed. Yao Tu Emperor, a transcendent being of the Yao Tuo race. His power was equivalent to a universe master of Taichu. No wonder the bug race didn't want to enter Mi Air Ice River. Lin Feng sighed. Even if the great yen insect came, it wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. In the Mi Luo wilderness, Yao Tu Emperor's power was only that of an ordinary universe master. However, in Mi Air Ice River, he had the geographical advantage, and Yao Tu Emperor could unleash power that was several times or even tens of times stronger. It was like the difference between a fish in water and on land. Besides, the bone-chilling coldness in me air-ice river would cause damage to the cultivator. Natural domain. Even with the small world avatar, Lin Feng couldn't suppress me air-ice river. Obviously, me air-ice river's level was higher than the small world avatar. The mountain core world avatar can't compare to a powerful race like the Yao Tu race. There was more than one Yao Tu Emperor. Until now, Lin Feng had killed 4 of them, and 2 of them were on land in Mi Luo Barren Land. He could roughly estimate how many Yao Tu Emperor had, which should be several times more than the Yen insect. However, after leaving Mi Air Ice River, Yao Tu Emperor's power was greatly reduced, and it couldn't compare to the Yen insect. It was only equivalent to time-devouring insect emperor and universe-splitting insect king. Yao Tu race relied on Mi Air Ice River a lot. Yao Tu Emperor's internal universe has a huge amount of ice river energy. Other than Yao Tu race, other races can't control it. Although the bug race could swallow internal universes, not all internal universes could be easily swallowed. Yao Tu Emperor's internal universe was one of them. Swallowing Yao Tu Emperor's internal universe would cause him to be eroded by the ice river energy. The Yen insect could resolve it, but it would consume more energy. What about the other bugs? The universe-devouring insect emperor and universe-splitting insect king might not be able to resolve it. Delicacies could be poisonous. Lin Feng now understood why the insectoids had given up on the Mi glacier. It was not that they could not do it, but that the losses outweighed the gains. Moreover, the Mi ice river didn't have much of an effect on them, so they just let it be. The insectoids had a clear goal and were extremely efficient at executing it. The possibility of the insectoid commander hiding in the Mi ice river is not high. Lin Feng went deep into the source. He could more or less determine what was going on. First of all, he couldn't sense anything, and second of all, the closer he got to the source, the colder the icy river became. Even with the sovereign equipment set, it was difficult to resist. The insectoids did not like the ice river energy, and the insectoid commander would definitely not like it either. Breeding insectoids here? Impossible. There were many hidden places in the Miluo wilderness. There was no need to find a place to torture oneself. Moreover, the Miluo ice river was not hidden. For Taichu cultivators, the Miluo ice river was difficult to find, but for the Yao Tu clan, the Miluo ice river was their home. The Yao Tu clan knew every nook and cranny of their home. If the insectoid commander wanted to hide here, how could he hide it from the Yao Tu clan? Unless the Yao Tu clan was related to the insectoids, or the insectoids had completely controlled the Yao Tu clan. But that was not the case. The leader of the Yao Tu clan is the Yao Tu leader. He has 113 Yao Tu kings under him. Lin Feng forcibly plundered the Yao Tu king's soul memories. With 100 times the universe golden soul and a perfectly matured internal universe, Lin Feng could even absorb the insectoid's big yen insect blackboard, let alone the Yao Tu kings. The Yao Tu clan had their own language. They did not communicate with the outside world and lived in their own world. The Miluo ice river was their home, and the Miluo Tu realm was their backyard. Of course, the Yao Tu clan also treated the Miluo Tu realm as their home. Therefore, whenever they saw a Taichu cultivator, they would kill. The Yao Tu clan also hated the insectoid. But interestingly, they seemed to hate the Taichu cultivators even more. How can they not hate them? How many Yao Tu clan members have died in the hands of Taichu cultivators, and how many have been killed by the insectoids? They are not even on the same level. Shirwanli said, plus, the insectoids have just invaded not long ago, so they have not entered the Miluo ice river. But what about the Taichu cultivators? For countless eras, they have been training in the Miluo Tu realm. After killing the Yao Tu clan, countless of them have entered the Miluo ice river. Unless they are too weak to resist, no clan would want their home to be invaded. Shirwanli was the leader of the Garuda bird clan, so he had a deep understanding of this. If it were him, he would also hate the Taichu cultivators. Lin Feng also sighed. The Yao Tua clan was an independent clan. They did not think that they were part of the Taichu. To them, the Taichu cultivators and the insectoids were the same, invaders. That's a good thing. At least we can rule out the possibility that the Yao Tua clan is related to the insectoids. Lin Feng did not feel relieved. Ruling out the possibility of the Yao Tua clan being related to the insectoids did not mean anything. Instead, he had one less clue. The Miluo Tua realm was huge. Finding the insectoid commander without any clues was like finding a needle in a haystack. Are we still going forward, big brother? Shirwanli asked. Yes, of course. Lin Feng's small world incarnation protected him from the cold. The closer they got to the source, the colder it became. We are very close to the source. The Yao Tua clan leader is at the end of the Miluo Ice River. I want to see him. Shirwanli's constitution was better than Lin Feng's. After all, he was a major power. Why do you want to see the Yao Tua clan leader? What if he turns hostile? Can the two of us beat him? The Yao Tua clan's combat power on land and in the Miluo Ice River were very different. The Yao Tua king was like that, and so was the Yao Tua clan leader. Shirwanli had fought the Yao Tua clan leader before, so he could estimate how strong the Yao Tua clan leader was. If he turns hostile, so be it. What's there to be afraid of? Is the Yao Tua clan leader stronger than the insectoid commander? Lin Feng smiled. He did not care. He was not afraid of fighting. If he could not even defeat the Yao Tua clan leader, how could he find the insectoid commander? Although he ruled out the possibility that the Yao Tua clan was related to the insectoids, this trip to the Miluo Ice River would not be in vain. The Yao Tua clan was the local snake of the Miluo Tua realm, and the Miluo Ice River ran through the Miluo Tua realm. Lin Feng believed that the Yao Tua clan leader must know a lot of information. If he could meet him, it would definitely be helpful in finding the insectoid commander. However, with the Yao Tua clan's hatred for Taichu cultivators, the Yao Tua clan leader might not be willing to help. Just like what second brother 100,000 Miles had said, the possibility of them falling out with him would be higher. Chapter 3047. The Yao Tua monarch has changed a lot. Shirwanli was fighting one of the Yao Tua monarchs, while Lin Feng was fighting two by himself. The cold waters of the Mi, or Ice River, created an excellent environment for the Yao Tua monarchs to fight in. Shirwanli's strength was not inferior to Mu Shan's and was only slightly inferior to Lin Feng's. However, his strength had been greatly weakened in the Mi, or Ice River. Shirwanli's agility, in particular, was his weakness, so the Yao Tua monarch was able to take advantage of him. Given the control of a universe ruler, one could simply ignore the flow of water. However, this was the water of the Ice River, a Hongmeng existence that was even stronger than the mountain core world embodiment. It was not something that could be controlled by a cultivator, especially since the Yao Tua monarch was controlling the water of the Ice River. Fortunately, there was a powerful primordial artifact, the Myriad Domain Secret Realm, within 100,000 li radius. That was why they could fight steadily. If they didn't have a powerful domain artifact, people like Mu Shan would definitely be beaten up if they came to the source of Mi Air Ice River. However, when one was strong enough, they could naturally ignore everything. Take Lin Feng for example. After using the Hongmeng Golden Body, the two small world embodiments fought against the two Yao Tua monarchs. Lin Feng had the upper hand in this one-on-two fight. Lin Feng did not use the Great World Embodiment because he only had one Great World Embodiment. Its energy was limited. Although the Great World Embodiment could automatically absorb and recover energy, it was very slow. To fully use the Great World Embodiment, one must first have perfect control over it. Secondly, One's own energy had to be strong enough to replenish the energy of the Great World Embodiment, such as the mountain core. The Great World Embodiment was like a storage device. Although it could absorb energy slowly on its own, it was far slower than directly replenishing it. In battle, the energy of the Great World Embodiment could be used directly without drawing on one's own energy, which was convenient and fast. Not only could it save time, but it could also be used in other aspects. One could also have a lot more energy out of thin air, which was twice the result with half the effort. However, Lin Feng could not use it in this way yet. After all, he was only a Yuan Venerate. His internal universe and energy thickness were his weaknesses. Destroy! The golden Hongmeng power clashed with the Yao Tua King's ice river power, and Lin Feng had the upper hand. Although this was the Yao Tua King's territory, Lin Feng had obviously turned the tables. His destruction saber technique was vigorous and powerful. It wasn't a saber technique of a particularly high level, but it fully demonstrated the profundity of the sixth-order Hongmeng law of destruction. Moreover, the combination of destruction and different small world incarnations had different effects. This was something that Lin Feng had discovered during the battle. Although they are different, they can still be connected, just like the embodiment of a great world. Lin Feng's understanding of the Great Destruction had also reached large success. The seventh-order Hongmeng laws of Great Destruction was a perfect combination of the 1888 sixth-order Hongmeng laws of Great Destruction. The other universe masters would be puzzled as to how to combine the two, and they would be shackled here. However, Lin Feng wouldn't, and it was very clear. This was because the golden engravings were clearly reflected on the Great World Esper's body, explaining all the mysteries of the Great Destruction, including the connection between each destruction and other destruction. It was like a puzzle, perfectly pieced together. Boom! Boom! After a fierce battle, one of the two Yao Tua kings died, and the other was seriously injured. Go back and tell the Yao Tua overlord that I want to see him, Lin Feng said to the seriously injured Yao Tua king. The latter's ugly and ferocious appearance was a bit sluggish. He didn't expect Lin Feng to know the language of the Yao Tua clan. Tisk tisk. As if his teeth were being polished, the seriously injured Yao king stared at Lin Feng fiercely and said in a sharp voice, "Just you wait, the overlord won't let you go." Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Such a threat. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Yao Tua king had a look of disdain and said disdainfully, "Tsk, if you want to kill me, just kill me. Why would my Yao Tua clan be afraid of inferior creatures like you?" Humph. Inferior creatures? Lin Feng laughed loudly. Suddenly, killing intent flashed past his eyes. The small world incarnation flashed with dark red light, and the battle sword Snow Jewel directly beheaded the Yao Tua king. Swoosh. I want to see the Yao Tua overlord, not ask for an audience. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He naturally wouldn't compromise. His gaze fell on the Yao Tua king that Shirwanli was fighting. After a fierce battle, Shirwanli gradually gained the upper hand in the battle and began to suppress him. In terms of battle experience, the Yao Tua king that had been hiding in the depths of the Mi-Air Ice River all year round was not as experienced as Shirwanli, who had experienced many battles. Spare his life. Lin Feng transmitted his voice to Shirwanli. The latter understood and gradually suppressed the Yao Tua king with the myriad secret world. Bit by bit, the Yao Tua king's defense was eroded until he was seriously injured. I will let you go, but I have a condition, Lin Feng said directly. Hey, inferior. The heavily injured Yao Tua king's huge head shook. A fierce light flashed in his golden eye, but his aura was weak. Say it. Gritting his teeth, the Yao Tua king seemed to have heard his companion's words. He knew that this inferior creature in front of him was not to be trifled with. He would kill at the slightest disagreement. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Go back and tell the Yao Tua overlord that I will wait for him here, Lin Feng said. Hey. The Yao Tua king gritted his teeth. He looked hesitant. His golden eye rolled and looked at Shi Wanli. Finally, he stared at Lin Feng, as if he wanted to imprint Lin Feng's appearance in his huge head. Whoosh, the water of the ice river rolled. Instantly, the Yao Tua king turned into a white phantom and left with the ice river water. Soon, he disappeared without a trace. Brother, do you think he will inform the Yao Tua overlord? Shi Wanli asked. He will. Lin Feng did not hesitate. The Yao Tua kings are very proud. They call Taichu cultivators inferior creatures, which means that they are superior creatures themselves. If a superior creature is defeated by an inferior creature, he will naturally inform the Yao Tua overlord if he can't accept this. If he can accept this and is willing to keep his promise, he will also inform the Yao Tua overlord. Shi Wanli pondered as he recovered from his injuries. Do we have to do this? Brother, can't we just kill our way in? Try peaceful means before resorting to force. Lin Feng said, the Yao Tua clan is a local snake. Our main purpose here is not to fight with them but to learn about the insectoids through them. I'm afraid they might not be willing. Shi Wanli could sense the Yao Tua clan's hatred and contempt for Taichu cultivators. Lin Feng laughed it off. Whether they are willing or not is another matter. At least we've expressed our goodwill first. It's just that they aren't willing to accept it. When the time comes, there will be some leeway between us, and we won't have to expand our hatred to the point of complete rupture. Shi Wanli nodded and praised, brilliant, brother. Lin Feng resisted the erosion of the ice river water and said, if we could resolve this peacefully, I wouldn't want to start a war with the Yao Tua clan. There are only the two of us, but we have to fight their entire clan. We'll be the ones at a disadvantage. This is their territory. Haha, what are you afraid of? If we can win, we'll fight. If we can't, we'll run. Shi Wanli was very straightforward. Lin Feng smiled. Wait patiently. Chapter 30-48. Shi Wanli's words came true. Lin Feng didn't wait for the Yao Tua horde lord, but more Yao Tua kings came. Previously there were 3 of them, but this time there were 10 of them, 3 times the number. Following the principle of escaping if you can't win, Lin Feng and Shi Wanli directly slipped away. There was no point in fighting head-on with the Yao Tua clan. Lin Feng's target was the Zerg, not the Yao Tua clan. He would be the one to suffer if he acted rashly, but this didn't mean that Lin Feng would give up on this line. If the Yao Tua horde lord didn't want to meet him, then force him to meet him. Lin Feng was best at doing this kind of thing. That day, he turned Universe 7's Holy Inquisition upside down by himself. Now, he was stronger than before, and he wasn't afraid of the Yao Tua clan at all. He nibbled away at the Yao Tua kings one by one. The number of Yao Tua kings was limited. 1 against 1, 1 against 2, Lin Feng was determined to win. If he really wanted to kill the Yao Tua kings, these natives living in Mi-Air Ice River couldn't stop him at all. A total of 113 Yao Tua kings couldn't be killed. Unless they didn't show up, Lin Feng would have a way to kill them and then leave. In terms of sensing ability, tracking ability, and escaping ability, whether it was Lin Feng or Shi Wanli, they were far above the Yao Tua kings. Mi-Air Ice River wouldn't give Lin Feng too much of an obstacle. For the Yao Tua clan, a nightmare began just like that. As strong as the Yao Tua kings were, they were as weak as chickens and ducks in front of Lin Feng, extremely weak. When nearly 10 Yao Tua kings were killed, the Yao Tua clan was still ferocious, angrily searching everywhere for Lin Feng's traces to avenge their clansmen. But when Lin Feng killed more than 20 Yao Tua kings, the Yao Tua clan became extremely cautious. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5, not giving Lin Feng a chance to kill them alone. They would also be afraid. And when the number of Yao Tua kings killed exceeded 30, the Yao Tua kings disappeared from the entire Mi-Air Ice River, and it was difficult to find the Yao Tua clan. Shua! Lin Feng showed up like a ghost. A Yao Tua king who was looking around was greatly shocked. He waved his slender arms and shouted, "Wait! Wait! It's me! I know it's you." Lin Feng recognized the Yao Tua king as the one he had sent to inform the Yao Tua overlord. Every Yao Tua king looked almost the same, so it was hard to tell them apart. However, their auras were unique. Moreover, it was already difficult to find a Yao Tua king that moved alone not long ago. Now that a Yao Tua king that was alone had suddenly appeared, it was most likely a trap if it did not come with a mission. Tisk tisk. The Yao Tua king forced a little smile on his face. "The suzerain invites you in. Lead the way." Lin Feng nodded. The Yao Tua king stared at Lin Feng with his golden eye. Instantly, the water in the ice river surged, and the entire area changed as if a passage was opened. "Follow me." Stepping on the ice river, the Yao Tua king moved like a phantom. Lin Feng and Shirwanli followed him. "Are you afraid that it's a trap?" Shirwanli asked telepathically. If the Yao Tua overlord wanted to do that, he would have done it a long time ago. Lin Feng said, "The Yao Tua clan was born in the Mi-Air Ice River. They claim to be superior creatures and have strong self-esteem. It's impossible for them to do such a lowly thing." Shirwanli replied, "Let's be careful." "I understand." Lin Feng naturally had to be careful. This was the Yao Tua clan's territory after all, and they had already reached the end. The energy in the Mi-Air Ice River was extremely rich. Fighting here would be very beneficial for the Yao Tua clan. If they were surrounded, it would be very troublesome. However, Lin Feng was not so cowardly that he would be afraid of the Yao Tua clan because of unwarranted worry. If he was really afraid of something, he wouldn't have come. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. At the end of the Mi-Air Ice River, there was an extremely powerful Hongmeng Law. Lin Feng could feel that it had already surpassed the Great Destruction. It was Hongmeng Law that was above level 8. Just as he had estimated, the level of the Mi-Air Ice River was above the mountain core world. The Mi-Luo-Ta realm itself was one of the top 3 Taichu secret realms, far surpassing Hongmeng's 1,000 Perception Mountain. "We're almost there." The Yao Tua king opened up the ice river path and took a detour. He brought Lin Feng and Shirwanli to the core of the end of the Mi-Air Ice River. This place was abnormally cold. The Yao Tua king ignored it, but Lin Feng and Shirwanli had to activate their defenses to withstand it. The deeper they went, the colder it became. "Take this." The Yao Tua king took out 2 crystal-clear ice beads and threw them to Lin Feng and Shirwanli. "Oh?" Lin Feng was slightly surprised. The ice beads weren't big. They were only the size of a fingernail, but they contained a lot of essence energy. They weren't cold. Instead, they could feel a hint of coolness in the ice river. While Shirwanli was still hesitating, Lin Feng had already swallowed them. Whoosh, a chill came from his body, and the bone-chilling coldness disappeared instantly. It was as if he had suddenly gone from a cold world to a cool one. Although there was still a hint of coldness, he didn't need to use a lot of energy to withstand it like before. "What's this?" Lin Feng asked curiously. "Ice elemental beads." The Yao Tua king rolled his golden eyes at Lin Feng. "It's a whale milk stone from the depths of the ice river. It takes 10,000 eras to form a drop, and only a small cup can be formed in 100 million eras. It seems to be very precious," Lin Feng said with a smile. Shirwanli had also swallowed the beads. He looked like he was enjoying it. "Of course." The Yao Tua king curled his lips. "Ha, you're lucky. If it weren't for the fact that the Tua Luo Palace is too cold, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to withstand it." The Yao Tua king mumbled a few words and stopped talking. Lin Feng smiled. This Yao Tua lord was really stubborn. He would rather give up 2 precious ice elemental beads than come out to see him. How arrogant! They were indeed a race with a lot of pride. If he came out to see him, it would seem that the Yao Tua clan was a coward. But now that he was going to see the Yao Tua lord, he felt that the Yao Tua clan was high and mighty, like an emperor. Lin Feng didn't care about this. His purpose was very simple. He wouldn't think about who was the host and who was the guest. However, the Yao Tua clan hated Taichu cultivators for a long time. Even if the Yao Tua lord wanted to see him, it was because he had no choice. It wouldn't be easy to ask him for help. It was more likely that he would be sneered at and sent away. "We're here. You can go in." The Yao Tua king stopped and stood respectfully to the side. Tua Luo Palace. Lin Feng looked at the luxurious palace in front of him that seemed to be built from ice crystals. It was located in the core region of the Mi Air Ice River, and the ice crystals that formed around it had been here for countless eons. They emitted an icy cold that seeped into one's heart. The aura in the void made one shiver. One could faintly feel the powerful grand mist laws maintaining the order of the ice river. "Thank you." Lin Feng nodded to the Yao Tua king. The ice elemental beads in his body were cool and blended well with the ice elemental land. Lin Feng didn't feel any discomfort and entered the Tua Luo palace. Whoosh! The moment he stepped in, a huge force pressed down on him like a mountain in the sky. Boom! Chapter 3049. This enormous power was hostile and wanted to force people to submit. Lin Feng naturally knew the source of this power. He didn't use his world incarnation, just resisting it with his willpower. Since he came to see Yao Tua Lord, he knew it would be a trap. No matter what, Lin Feng was forcing Yao Tua Lord to see him. More than 30 Yao Tua Lords had died at Lin Feng's hands. It was already good that Yao Tua Lord didn't immediately attack and reveal his killing intent. The enormous pressure continued to increase. It was a dazzling golden light that originated from Yao Tua Lord's single golden eye. The icy aura seemed to freeze the entire Yao Tua royal palace. Lin Feng was as unmoving as a mountain. No matter how Yao Tua Lord pressured him, his expression didn't change. After a long time, the air seemed to explode. The pervasive icy aura instantly retracted. The golden light that enveloped the entire palace disappeared. Yao Tua Lord appeared in front of Lin Feng. There was a white ice diamond mark on his forehead that contained bone-chilling coldness. His 6 slender arms were like 6 snow-white battle blades, filled with oppressive killing intent. His enormous head looked over. His single golden eye shone with a hint of anger and hatred. "Human, how dare you!" Yao Tua Lord's voice was terrifyingly sharp. The sound waves were like shock waves. "Lin Feng greets Yao Tua Lord." Lin Feng bowed. He wasn't intimidated by Yao Tua Lord's aura. Shirwanli stood half a step behind Lin Feng. He didn't say anything and followed Lin Feng's lead. "You killed my clan's Yao Tua Lords in succession and caused a ruckus in Mi or Ice River. Do you really think I don't dare to touch you?" Yao Tua Lord's tone was filled with anger. His surging killing intent once again filled the royal palace. "I don't dare." Lin Feng was neither servile nor overbearing. It's just that Yao Tua Lord came with great momentum and was too powerful. Lin Feng had to use his full strength. "If I held back, I probably wouldn't even have a corpse left." Yao Tua Overlord snorted coldly. "You sure know how to talk." Lin Feng said, "The Yao Tua clan covers the sky with one hand in Miluo Tua realm. Their strength is extraordinary. If Lin Feng is not at his wit's end, I would not be willing to meet Sir Feudal Lord in this way. Please forgive me." His soft flattery caused Yao Tua Overlord's expression to soften slightly. He, who had a strong sense of self-esteem, was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. He had originally planned to teach Lin Feng a lesson, but now that his anger had subsided a little, he had almost forgotten about it. "Speak. What business do you have with me?" The Yao Tua Lord held his head high as he sat on the throne carpet. Although his anger had subsided a bit, he had never liked Taichu practitioners. "To be honest, Lin Feng is here for the insectoids." Lin Feng went straight to the point. Yao Tua Overlord rolled his eyes, as if he was not very interested, but also as if he had already guessed it. "The insectoids are wreaking havoc in Miluo Tua realm. I believe that Sir Feudal Lord does not wish for your home to be destroyed, Lin Feng said. If Sir Feudal Lord can provide some useful information, the door is over there. I won't be seeing you out. Yao Tua Overlord closed his eyes, bored to death. Lin Feng smiled, not caring about being refused the door. Are you afraid of the insectoids, Sir Feudal Lord? Yao Tua Overlord snorted coldly. Why should I be afraid of them? Don't try to goad me. My Yao Tua clan and the insectoids have nothing to do with each other. The grudges between you Taichu practitioners and the insectoids have nothing to do with us. If you want to fight, fight yourselves. Lin Feng said, Sir Feudal Lord, you plan to stay out of this, but the insectoids might not think the same. Yao Tua Overlord said disdainfully, My Yao Tua clan was born in Miluo Ice River, under the protection of Hongmeng. The insectoids cannot enter and will not be willing to enter. The energy of the ice river is not something they can absorb. Are you so sure? Lin Feng asked. Yao Tua Overlord opened his single golden eye and looked at Lin Feng. You don't have to waste your breath. I'm actually grateful to the insectoids for helping my Yao Tua clan teach you greedy Taichu practitioners a good lesson. You want my Yao Tua clan to stand on your side? With that, Yao Tua Overlord closed his eyes again and began to enjoy himself. So, Sir Feudal Lord knows many secrets of the insectoids, Lin Feng said. Yao Tua Overlord pursed his lips and did not answer. He only snorted disdainfully, as if to say, My Yao Tua clan has dominated the Miluo Tua realm. What do we not know? Including the insectoid commander? Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Yao Tua Overlord suddenly paused and slowly opened his golden eye. Go back. My Yao Tua clan will not cooperate with you Taichu practitioners. If you want to look for them yourself. If you can find them, it's your skill. If you can't, blame your own stupidity. Stupidity? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the insectoid commander isn't in the Miluo wilderness? Lin Feng asked. Yao Tua Overlord's lips curled into a cold smile. He still ignored him, as if tacitly agreeing, but also as if he was too lazy to answer. His ambiguous attitude made it difficult to guess. Lin Feng's brows furrowed slightly as he pondered. It was clear that Yao Tua Overlord knew a lot. The Yao Tua clan occupied the Miluo Glacier, which was the lifeline of the Miluo Tua realm. Nothing here could be hidden from them. The Yao Tua clan probably already knew the moment the insectoids entered. Let's make a deal, Overlord, Lin Feng suddenly said. Oh! Yao Tua Overlord calmly opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng with a faint smile. My Yao Tua clan doesn't lack anything, and we don't need the charity of you Taichu cultivators. Everything we need, the glacier will give us. What if I say that my Taichu is willing to give you the entire Miluo Tua realm? Lin Feng's words were like a heavy bomb that directly stunned Yao Tua Overlord. The entire Miluo Tua realm? What do you mean? Yao Tua Overlord's relaxed expression was no longer as relaxed as before. He stared at Lin Feng, his breathing somewhat ragged. Hit the snake where it hurts. Lin Feng was a mind cultivator, and what he was best at was observation. Although he hadn't interacted with Yao Tua Overlord for long, Lin Feng had more or less figured out his personality and what the Yao Tua clan needed. It was normal that Yao Tua Overlord wouldn't cooperate. Just as he said, what benefits would there be in cooperating? He would put himself in danger. They lived in the Miluo Ice River. Although the insect race occupied the Miluo Tua realm, they had never entered the Miluo Ice River and couldn't devour its energy. Therefore, the Miluo Ice River was like a paradise. Yao Tua Overlord didn't need to worry at all. He knew very well what the insect race would do next, and what they would do next. They would launch a fierce attack on the Taichu. The two powerhouses fought fiercely, and Yao Tua Overlord was happy to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. But now the conditions that Lin Feng threw out pointed directly at the depths of his heart. Didn't the Yao Tua clan need the Miluo Tua realm? They did. The Miluo Ice River was their home, and the Miluo Tua realm was their backyard. Now that their backyard was on fire, Yao Tua Overlord also wanted to put out the fire, but he couldn't. The insect race was too strong, so he could only retreat and give up. At least they could protect the Miluo Ice River so that their home wouldn't be invaded. It wasn't that the Yao Tua clan wanted to give up, but they had no choice. Yao Tua Overlord knew very well that the Yao Tua clan was no match for the insect race, especially on land where their strength would be greatly reduced. But now they had a different choice. Chapter 3050. Let's hear it. The Yao Tua Lord sat up straight, his interest peaked. Lin Feng smiled, knowing that the conditions he had just mentioned were exactly what the Yao Tua Lord wanted. He continued, if the information provided by the Yao Tua clan is of great use and the Taichu quells the insect plague, the Miluo Tua realm will belong to the Yao Tua clan in the future. No Taichu cultivators will enter again. The Yao Tua Lord studied Lin Feng, his golden eyes narrowing. Don't speak without thinking. You Taichu cultivators are the best at lying. You say one thing and do another. You can choose not to believe me, Lin Feng said to the Yao Tua Lord, but I dare say that even the Miluo Glacier might not be safe. Are you absolutely sure that the insectoids won't invade the Miluo Glacier? They aren't invading the Miluo Glacier right now because the Miluo Tua realm has abundant energy. What will happen if the Miluo Tua realm runs out of energy one day? Even the insectoids will spread throughout the Taichu. There will be no safe land in the Taichu realm. Do you think the insectoids will let you go then? Every word of Lin Feng's was full of weight. The Yao Tua Lord's expression was grave. He had considered every possibility that Lin Feng had mentioned, but he still held a sliver of hope in his heart. After all, the insectoids had indeed not invaded the Miluo Glacier yet. But he could not be sure. Indeed, there are many Taichu cultivators who say one thing and do another, but not all Taichu cultivators are like that. At least we can talk and sit together. We are all beings of the Hongmeng Sea. Lord, if I may ask, can you and the insectoid Grand Commander discuss this? The mighty Yao Tua clan will leave its fate in the hands of the insectoids. The Yao Tua Lord fell silent. The Hongmeng Sea was the Hongmeng Sea, and the insectoids were the insectoids. They were two completely different dimensional worlds, and their energies clashed. Hoping that the invaders would show mercy was undoubtedly laughable. Lin Feng looked at the Yao Tua Lord and said no more. He had already said what he needed to say. The Yao Tua Overlord himself knew, but there were many things that he didn't want to face. You can never wake a man who is pretending to be asleep, unless he wakes himself. The Ice River is connected to the main meridian of the Miluo Tua realm. It can sense any changes in energy. Yao Tua Overlord was silent for a long time before he slowly opened his mouth. I can tell you where more than 90% of the blackboard is. As for the Big Yen Worm and the insect tribe's great commander, you'll have to search for them yourself. More than 90% of the blackboard. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This number far exceeded his expectations. Bang! A powerful consciousness energy rushed into his mind, and Lin Feng's heart trembled. In an instant, a series of memory-like data appeared in his mind, and the entire Miluo Tua territory was as clear as a map. In every part of the Miluo Tua realm, the changes in energy, including the Miluo wilderness, were all clearly visible. Normal blackboard, super blackboard, Big Yen insect blackboard. Everything was available. This is? The most eye-catching one was undoubtedly the unique huge black disk in the depths of the Miluo wilderness. Among the marks, this was the one with the most astonishing absorption of energy, and also the one with the deepest concealment. The initial Big Yen insect blackboard. That was it. Around the initial Big Yen insect blackboard, there were dozens of Big Yen insect blackboards scattered all over the Miluo wilderness. It was as if they were dividing up the territory, dividing every inch of the Miluo wilderness cleanly. And outside the Miluo wilderness, In the even larger Milieu Toa territory, the number of super blackboards was innumerable, like a colony of ants. From the absorption of energy, one could tell the level of the blackboard. It was densely packed with normal blackboards, and there were tens of thousands of super blackboards. As for the big yen insect blackboards, there were quite a few in the Milieu Toa territory. Many thanks, Overlord. Lin Feng thanked him. This information was too large and too complete, almost uprooting the insect tribe's arrangements. Milieu Glacier was the vein of the Milieu Toa territory. The energy of a secret territory maintained a complete cycle, so Milieu Glacier, as the center of the Milieu Toa territory, could clearly sense every change in energy. Especially the Milieu Wilderness, which was the core of the Milieu Toa territory, the center of the energy cycle. Therefore, the Yao Tua clan had the most precise sense and control of this place. The 90% that Yao Tua Overlord said didn't include the Milieu Wilderness. The Milieu Wilderness must be 100%. The remaining 10% that couldn't be explored was at the border of the Milieu Toa territory, where the Milieu Glacier didn't flow. At most, there were some normal blackboards there. Even if there were super blackboards, there were only a few of them. After all, super blackboards required a lot of energy. Remember your promise, human. Yao Tua Overlord didn't trust Lin Feng too much, but Lin Feng's last words had touched his heart. He didn't want to be led by the nose by the insect tribe. The Yao Tua clan was arrogant. He was the dignified Yao Tua Overlord, so he didn't need the Taichu cultivators to perform, much less the pity of the insect tribe. In the Milieu Glacier, Lin Feng and Shirwanli left. They weren't allies, nor were they working together. Lin Feng belonged to Lin Feng, and the Yao Tua clan belonged to the Yao Tua clan. Everyone was purely making a deal. I didn't think it would go so smoothly. Shirwanli sighed. The Yao Tua clan is just arrogant, not stupid. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Do you really think they don't see the insect tribe? They're just making compromises because they can't fight back. In terms of threat, the insect tribe is far greater than us Taichu cultivators. It's just that they're too arrogant. How could Lin Feng not understand the Yao Tua clan? With the Yao Tua clan's pride and arrogance, would they lower themselves to cooperate with Taichu cultivators? Absolutely impossible. This was a clan that would rather die than lower their heads. Shirwanli seemed to understand, but not quite. Lin Feng said, if Yao Tua Overlord really cooperated because of the condition I mentioned, there would be more follow-up, such as making me swear a soul oath, or meeting with the First Marshal, and so on. But he didn't ask for anything, just that I had to keep my promise. He found a way out. Shirwanli understood. Lin Feng nodded. After all, I'm just a Yuan Venerate. How can I represent the entire Taichu? Yao Tua Overlord doesn't really want me to keep my promise. From his perspective, he doesn't want the Taichu to be ravaged by the insect tribe. If the Taichu is eaten by the insect tribe, the Yao Tua clan won't be able to escape this fate. So we don't have to keep our promise. Shirwanli raised an eyebrow. That's not it. Lin Feng laughed. Since I promised Yao Tua Overlord, I will do my best to keep my promise. The blackboard distribution map that Yao Tua Overlord gave us will be of great help. If it can really quell the insect disaster, what's wrong with giving them the Milieu Toa realm? They were the masters of the Milieu Toa realm in the first place. Lin Feng wasn't someone who went back on his word. Since he had said it, Lin Feng would do his best to keep his promise, regardless of what Yao Tua Overlord thought. Now, the battle situation was clear. Finally, there are clues about the insect race Great Commander. Lin Feng left the Mi or Ice River and headed straight for the Great Commander's location. The initial Big Yen insect blackboard. Chapter 3051. The Milieu Wilderness was chaotic. This place still maintained the appearance of the Hongming Sea. Various mirror worlds mixed with natural illusions made cultivators shrink back. Once they got lost, even if they found the way out, it would take a long time. Therefore, the 12 groups of Taichu Dominator elites couldn't search too deeply. However, Lin Feng was different. Right now, he had a complete map of the Miluo wilderness. It was a gift from the Yao Tuo race. It was unique in the entire Taichu. The map that Yao Tuo Overlord had given him wasn't very detailed about the Miluo Tuo realm. After all, it was too big. However, the Miluo wilderness was very detailed. Every mirror world was connected, and the location of the savage wilderness secret realm was clearly indicated. This was because Lord Yao Tuo knew very well that this was what Lin Feng truly needed, every place where the Great Yen Insect Blackboard was. This is the only Great Yen Insect Blackboard that I've found. Lin Feng had already determined the location in his memory, and there were also dozens of Big Yen Insects Black Plates locations. He could drive straight in and attack the root of the problem. However, Lin Feng only had one goal right now: the Void Tuo realm, where the original Great Yen Insect Blackboard was. Wait for me here. If you don't see me after an era, immediately notify the First Marshal and tell him that the Insectoid Commander is here. Lin Feng's words shocked everyone, causing Mu Shan and Ruzo Boron to stare at him with their mouths agape. Lin Feng found the Insectoid Commander? How did he find it? What was even more terrifying was that Lin Feng planned to find the Insectoid Commander alone. Was he stupid? Brother Lin Feng, if you're really sure, wouldn't it be better to notify the First Marshal now? Mu Shan asked hesitantly. I'm not sure. Even now, Lin Feng still wasn't completely sure. One had to be wary of others. Although he had made a deal with the Yao Tuo clan, Lin Feng was still wary of the Yao Tuo overlord. After all, the Yao Tuo clan and the insectoids had always been at peace, and no one knew what their relationship was like. If Lord Yao Tuo allied with the insectoids and lured the First Marshal overthrew him, the defenses of Miluo Tuo realm would be greatly weakened. The insectoids had already done this once in Hongming's 1000 Perception Mountain. Therefore, Lin Feng wanted to explore it himself. Okay, I'll wait for you. Mu Shan looked at Lin Feng and said solemnly. Oh, your heart, brother Lin. Baizhua Boron was full of flirtatious charm. After becoming familiar with Lin Feng, he revealed his seductive nature. I will. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Then, he and Shirwanli entered the deep chaos passageway. It was a boundless independent space that was like the universe. This was the mysterious Void Tuo realm. Whoosh Hongmeng source crystals could be seen everywhere, and clear Hongmeng laws could be seen. The Void Tuo realm was filled with unknowns. Let's find the entrance to the second floor first, Lin Feng said to Shirwanli. Since he was already here, he had no intention of leaving. Whether it was a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, someone had to try. Lin Feng was not sure because he had not sensed anything until now. There were only two possibilities. One was that he had not sensed anything. The other was that there was no insectoid commander below. However, the map given by Yao Tuo Overlord was real. There was nothing fake about it. Following the directions, Lin Feng soon found a light vortex in the void. The suction force was extremely strong. The second floor. There were many traps and illusions here. However, with his strong will, Lin Feng would not get lost. The second floor's Hongmeng energy was even more abundant. Hongmeng source crystals were condensed into mountains and could be taken anywhere. The initial Big Yen Insects Blackboard is on the third floor, the deepest floor. Lin Feng was now 80% convinced. At least the Void Tuo realm was not bad for the insectoid commander. He could absorb energy here without being disturbed. It was like a paradise. The second floor was already so rich, so there was no need to talk about the third floor. Whether it was the Blackboard, the Super Blackboard, or the Big Yen Insects Blackboard, they all needed energy. The insectoids' world was different from the Hongmeng Ocean. The insectoids needed the Blackboard as an energy source and a breeding ground. This was the insectoid race's characteristic. To the insectoids, the Blackboard was equivalent to their internal universe to the cultivators. Hongmeng source crystals? Lin Feng smiled in surprise. Hongmeng source crystals were not the only things floating in this chaos. There were Hongmeng source crystals as well. Miluo Tua Realm was one of the top 3 secret areas. Miluo barbarian lands could not be completely explored even by universe rulers. Many areas were unexplored barbarian lands with many treasures. However, Lin Feng did not lack any. Just the Mountain Core World incarnation alone was not complete. Snow Jewel was not even 10% of its power. There was also the 100 million wheel 8-front formation. These were all Hongmeng source crystals. Treasures that exceeded 90% of universe rulers did not have. Lin Feng already had a lot. After the insectoid disaster is settled, I'll come to Miluo barbarian lands to plunder. I'll definitely be rich. Lin Feng was just thinking about it. He did not have much desire for external items. He was more concerned about himself and the imminent insectoid disaster. If he could not settle the insectoid disaster, everything would just be empty talk. Big brother, this place is a little dizzy. Although Shirwanli was also a mental cultivator, his willpower could not compare to Lin Feng's. In this chaotic void without any coordinates, it was as if he was walking on the spot. Coupled with the occasional darkness and chaos, the test of willpower was quite heavy. The void to a realm itself was mysterious and extraordinary in Miluo barbarian lands. We're almost there. Lin Feng's mind was very clear. With his second brother Shirwanli flying, not only was their speed faster, but he could also focus on finding his way. In the distance, a chaotic storm appeared. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Got it. XN Realm Incarnation. Lin Feng took out his XIN Realm Incarnation. The dark red engravings condensed Hongmeng energy, enveloping Lin Feng and Shirwanli. The chaotic storm was very strong. It was not inferior to the attack of a universe master. Once entangled by the chaotic storm, even if they could block it, they would lose their way. This was the key to entering the 3rd level of the Void to a Realm. They had to pass through the chaotic storm area to find the entrance to the 3rd level. Whoosh, whoosh. The power of the chaotic storm exhausted Lin Feng's XIN Realm Incarnation's Hongmeng energy. Fortunately, Lin Feng had enough XIN Realm Incarnations. Using up the energy of one of them was not a big deal. Without Yao Tua Lord's instructions, even if we coincidentally entered here, we would not be able to find the entrance to the 3rd level. Lin Feng sighed. It was not just him. Even someone as strong as Fan Zhu might not be able to do it. Now, Lin Feng was even more certain that Yao Tua Lord did not lie to him. The Void Tua Realm not only had powerful energy, but it was also very hidden. Even if he told you that the insect commander was here, it would be very difficult to find him. The mysterious Void Tua Realm was unique in Miluo barbarian lands. Whoosh! A spiraling beam of light appeared in front of him. It was so deep that it entered his eyes. 100,000 kilometers of it spread its wings and sped forward, diving straight in. The 3rd level. Chapter 3052. Outside the Void to a Realm. Mu Shan pondered this for a long time before asking Jiso Borun, "Hey, how credible do you think this is?" 30%. Grizo Boron paused for a moment, his dark red eyes rolling up slightly. However, Lin Feng's judgment has never been wrong. From the first Dian Worm to the Dian Worm blackboard, the movements of the insectoids seemed to be under his control. Hold on. Jiso Borun was startled. Big Brother Shan, don't tell me you're suspecting. That's not what I meant. Mu Shan added, Lin Feng can't be a bug race spy. A bug race spy wouldn't be so high profile. Furthermore, Lin Feng is only a Yuan Venerate. His words carry little weight. Jiso Borun heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Mu Shan said, "You are right about one thing. Lin Feng's judgment of the bug race has always been accurate. However, the problem is that he is only a Yuan Venerate. No matter how strong he is, there is a limit to his strength. What will happen if his judgment is correct this time?" Mu Shan's eyes glinted as he stared at Jiso. The bug race's great commander, the mastermind behind this bug disaster, is honest and strong. Even the first marshal might not be able to defeat him. If his judgment is wrong, he might lose his life. However, if his judgment is correct, Lin Feng will be throwing his life away. Mu Shan frowned. He wouldn't be so kind. To be honest, whether Lin Feng lived or died had nothing to do with him. The problem was that Lin Feng had the complete corpse of the great Yen worm. This was the key to the cooperation between Mu Shan and Lin Feng. If Lin Feng died in the Void to Realm and was killed by the bug race's great commander, it would be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. You decide, Big Brother Shan. Jiso was on Mu Shan's side. I've thought about it for a long time. Mu Shan had already made his decision. One era is too long. When the time comes, everything will be a foregone conclusion. I intend to report this matter to the first marshal immediately. I can accept whatever decision the marshal makes. All right, Big Brother Shan, Jiso replied. Milieu to Realm, entrance. What do you think, sir? The antennae on Marshal Hongming's forehead fluttered. The first marshal stood on a high ground. His scaly tail slapped the ground. His expression was solemn as he was in deep thought. Ever since he received the news, he had thought about many things, but he still couldn't come to a conclusion. Have you contacted Lin Feng? The first marshal's voice was low. Marshal Kaler Hongming said. He hasn't turned on his communicator. The frown on the first marshal's face deepened as he paced back and forth. Marshal Kaler and Hongming bowed at the side. They didn't dare to disturb the first marshal. He was also shocked when he received Mu Shan's message. He immediately contacted Lin Feng for confirmation, but he didn't get any response. Marshal Hongming didn't think that Mu Shan was lying. Lying like this wouldn't do him any good, unless Mu Shan was an insectoid spy. Everything Mu Shan said was reasonable. From all the signs, he was indeed very familiar with Lin Feng. I also don't have the confidence to defeat the insectoid commander. Lin Feng will definitely die if he encounters the insectoid commander. The first marshal's voice was heavy. He is too reckless. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Marshal Hongming said. Lin Feng is extremely strong to be able to defeat the great Yen insect as a Yuan venerate. Honestly speaking, I'm afraid none of the 8 Hongming marshals is a match for him. The difference between confidence and conceit is often just a thought. The first marshal sighed. Kaler, what do you think is the probability of the insectoid commander existing in the Shuto realm that Lin Feng explored? Marshal Hongming's antennae flickered as he muttered, 50%. The first marshal nodded. I think so too. Marshal Hongming looked at the first marshal and said in surprise, Marshal, I want to make a trip there. The first marshal's eyes blazed. The Taichu has always been on the defensive. It is time for us to counterattack. In the past dozen eras, the great Yen insects have fallen one after another. The attacks of the insectoid race are no longer the same as before. It is enough to have the 8 Hongming marshals to defend. If we only defend in war, we will never be able to obtain victory. This is a great opportunity. If Lin Feng's judgment is correct and I can take down the insectoid commander, the calamity of the insectoid race will be resolved. Marshal Hongming was a little hesitant. To be honest, the first marshal's decision was a little radical. After all, he was the marshal of an army. If he left and something happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. I know what you are afraid of. The first marshal looked at his confidant. I will go there in secret. You and I know this. This is a great opportunity. Lin Feng can't kill the insectoid commander. He will only alert the enemy. If we wait for one era, it will be too late. The insectoid commander isn't stupid. If his location is exposed, he will definitely migrate. It will be even harder to find him next time. I have to go there eventually. It is better to go earlier than later. Now that the insectoids are resting, I can go to the milieu wilderness. It will be best if we can succeed. If we can't, we should at least try. The first marshal had already made his decision. After thinking for a long time, he finally decided to go. He believed in Lin Feng's judgment. Just as he said, Lin Feng couldn't kill the insectoid commander. He would have to go to the milieu wilderness sooner or later. Since that was the case, why not go now? This was to prevent Lin Feng from alerting the enemy and alerting the insectoid commander. I will leave this place to you. Kalar, maintain the original state. If there are any abnormalities, inform me immediately. As the marshal of an army, the first marshal was very decisive. Once he made a decision, he wouldn't drag it out. Speed was crucial in war. The earlier they reached the milieu wilderness, the less changes there would be. Yes, Marshal. Hongming Marshal Kalar replied. Void to a realm. I finally came in. Lin Feng's heart beat rapidly. A strange light flashed in his eyes. There was still no reaction. However, Lin Feng felt something strange and different. The energy here was very special. It is mixed with other energy. It is the insectoid's energy. Lin Feng was very sure. After absorbing the Big Yen insect blackboard, Lin Feng was very clear about the insectoid's energy. Even the energy here was inferior to the energy in the second layer. It was like water mixed with sand, extremely muddy. These impurities were the result of the insectoids absorbing Hongming's energy. Previously, there were impurities where the Big Yen insect blackboard was. But here, there were even more. What did this mean? The original Big Yen insect blackboard. Lin Feng was now 90% sure that the Great Yen insect blackboard he had absorbed before was definitely one of the top 3 Great Yen insects. The strength of the Big Yen insect was proportional to the amount of Hongming's energy it absorbed. The impurities here were much more than the Big Yen insect blackboard. This proved that the Big Yen insect here was much more than the previous one. It must be him. Lin Feng was filled with fighting spirit. Chapter 3054. The void to a realm was huge. This was the world within a world, the primitive mystic realm created by the Hongmeng Ocean. Lin Feng entered the 3rd level and went deeper. Not only did he sense the impurities that were different from the previous 2 levels, but he also saw insect race. Time-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitter insect kings were everywhere, absorbing the endless pure energy from the Hongmeng origin crystal mountains. The deeper they went, the more Hongmeng origin crystals there were. The first level was only scattered around, while the second level was filled with Hongmeng origin crystals. The third level was even more. Only a small number of Grand Mist origin crystal mountains could be seen. Mountains and mountain ranges stretched endlessly. In this place, Grand Mist origin crystals were no different from ordinary stones. No wonder the insect race chose this place. Lin Feng raised his saber and slashed down, killing a few universe-splitter insect kings that were charging at him ferociously. At this point, these insects that only had the strength of pinnacle almighties were like weed. They could not withstand a single slash. Whoosh! Rumble, Shirwanli also started a massacre. The internal universe of a Taichu cultivator was very attractive to the insect race, much more so than the Hongmeng origin crystals. It was like the difference between a delicious meal and a nutritious meal. There are more insect race members here than the Big Yen insect. Lin Feng could estimate the number of time-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitter insect kings from the energy of the Big Yen insect. Although he couldn't rule out other possibilities, this Big Yen insect was definitely the strongest Big Yen insect he had killed so far. Find the original Big Yen insect, and everything will be clear. Lin Feng and Shirwanli started to wipe out everything in their path. Once the time-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitter insect kings had absorbed enough energy, they would combine and become Big Yen insects. Of course, the chances of failure weren't small. After all, the Big Yen insect was the ultimate form of the insect race. But the insect race wasn't afraid of failure. As long as there was enough energy, they could breed enough time-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitter insect kings. Even if there was only 1%, 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in 10,000 chance, they would still be able to form. That was how the Dian worms had appeared before. The primordial Big Yen insect was responsible for nurturing the Big Yen insect, and the Big Yen insect was responsible for nurturing the time-devouring insect monarchs and space-splitting insect kings. From 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, it was endless. This was the insectoid's ecological model. As long as there was energy, even if there was only one insectoid left, it could form a vast sea of insectoid. In terms of life force characteristics, these universe-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitter insect kings are stronger. Even if one's strength was the same, there would still be differences in their life force characteristics. Stronger life force characteristics meant greater potential, and the chances of forming a Big Yen worm would be higher. After all, they were nurtured by the primordial Grand Yen worms and not by ordinary Grand Yen worms. The stronger the Big Yen insect was, the stronger the life characteristics of the universe-devouring insect queen and universe-splitting insect king would be. In Lin Feng's opinion, if the universe-devouring insect queen and universe-splitting insect king fused, the chances of forming a Big Yen insect would be very high. It was best to kill them before their wings were fully grown. To be able to find this place, Lin Feng already believed 99% of the Yao Tu overlord's deal. The map he gave was not fabricated but genuine. This meant that the Yao Tu overlord intended to cooperate with the Taichu to eradicate the insectoid. This was very important. The most important thing in a war was information. As the local snake, the Yao Tu clan had the entire Miluo Tu realm spread throughout the Miluo Glacier. If they were willing to help, even if they could not eradicate the insectoids immediately, they would be able to suppress them bit by bit. Lin Feng now had a greater chance of quelling the insectoid disaster. As for the terms of the deal he gave the Yao Tu clan, compared to quelling the insectoid disaster, it was a small matter. Do you feel it? Lin Feng's small world incarnation resisted the frenzied attacks of the insectoid. His hand raised and his blade fell, as if it was a massacre. The number of insectoids he had killed so far was several times more than the Big Yen worm blackboard. A very strong life aura. As a mind cultivator, Shirwan Li's senses were not much worse than Lin Feng's. With his huge body and powerful natural talent, Shirwan Li's efficiency in group battles was more than 10 times higher than Lin Feng's. Lin Feng nodded. This life aura was different from the insectoids, just like how the life aura of a mountain core was different from the life aura of a world incarnation. The life aura of the original Big Yen worm blackboard. It was the same as the life aura of the Big Yen worm blackboard that he had absorbed before. However, this one was obviously much stronger. Other than that, he still did not sense anything. Lin Feng also did not see any movement of the insectoid clan Grand Commander. He did not know if he was inside, waiting for him. If he was the insectoid clan Grand Commander, what would he do? If he felt that he was far stronger than me and that victory was in his grasp, he would have appeared when I entered the 3rd level of the Void Tuo realm. He would not have given me so much time to kill the universe-devouring insect queen and the universe-splitter insect king. If he did not have the confidence to kill me, or if he felt that his strength was on par with mine, he would have waited for me in the original Big Yen worm blackboard. Lin Feng knew clearly that the Big Yen worm's strength outside and inside the Big Yen worm blackboard were very different. Although it was not like the Yao Tu race, where the difference between the ice river and the land was like heaven and earth, with the support of the original Big Yen worm blackboard's endless energy, and the Big Yen worm itself was like a natural domain. The Big Yen worm's strength inside the Big Yen worm blackboard was at least a few times stronger. However, this was not a reason for Lin Feng to retreat. If the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander appeared when he entered the Void Tour realm, it would be dangerous. Now, Lin Feng did not care at all. The original Big Yen Worm Blackboard. Lin Feng could already see from afar that the devouring power was 1,000,000 times more terrifying than the super black hole. The endless evil aura made people feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. It was extremely terrifying. Densely packed insectoids surrounded the original Big Yen Worm Blackboard. The blood-red light flickered like the king of hell. "Are we going in, big brother?" Shi Wanli asked. "No rush." Lin Feng's gaze was locked onto the original Big Yen Worm Blackboard. Let's see if it will appear. If he could fight with the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander outside, Lin Feng naturally hoped to do so. No matter what, it was still the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander. Its strength was unfathomable. If he entered the original Big Yen Worm Blackboard to fight with the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander, the chances of winning would be very low. Alright. Shi Wanli knew what Lin Feng was planning. He roared and activated the 1,000-domain secret realm. He activated the killing mode and crazily attacked the insectoids outside the Big Yen Worm Blackboard. Kill to your heart's content. Standing on Shi Wanli's back, Lin Feng did not make a move. He only stared at the original Big Yen Worm Blackboard. His battle could happen at any time. He needed to be in his best condition. The Insectoid Clan Grand Commander was the most dangerous and terrifying existence. Time passed slowly. Shi Wanli's killing mode gradually calmed down. The insectoids outside the Big Yen Worm Blackboard were mostly killed. The ground was filled with corpses. However, the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander still did not appear. Phew! Lin Feng let out a light breath. It was time. Since the Insectoid Clan Grand Commander did not appear, then he would go in and meet it. Chapter 3055. The enormous devouring power wrapped around his body, and the evil aura invaded every inch of his body, affecting his mind and will. Lin Feng entered the initial Big Yen Insect's black plate by himself, and stayed outside for 100,000 miles to continue his sweep. On one hand, Shi Wanli consumed a lot of energy. On the other hand, Lin Feng was not an expert in coordination. In a one-on-one battle, Shi Wanli would not be stronger than Lin Feng. In a battle, one person was enough. The insectoids here are much lesser than outside. Lin Feng ignored the evil aura of the black disk and used his battle blade Snow Jewel to harvest the lives of the universe-devouring insectoids as he went deeper. This was not an ownerless black disk. Lin Feng could feel its powerful life force and was unable to absorb the energy of the black disk. If the universe-devouring insectoids were killed, the black disk would not have any evil aura and he could directly absorb the energy. But until now, Lin Feng had not sensed the existence of the Insectoid Commander. The black disk gave him a feeling of emptiness. That's not right. The deeper Lin Feng went, the more confused he became. Firstly, this was the black disk of the universe-devouring insectoid, and it was most likely the black disk of the initial universe-devouring insectoid, the nest of the Insectoid Commander. The Insectoid Commander would definitely know that he had entered this place. But where was he? Lin Feng entered the depths of the initial Big Yen Insect's black disk. Everything in front of him was clear and bright. In the depths where the energy was the most concentrated, many golden white cocoons were lying there quietly. They contained powerful life auras. Those were the universe-devouring insectoids. The unborn universe-devouring insectoid. 12 golden white cocoons meant that 12 universe-devouring insectoids were about to be born. But other than the golden white cocoons, there was nothing else around. Lin Feng did not see any trace of the Insectoid Commander, not even a trace. Lin Feng directly took away the 12 golden white cocoons. He could not let these universe-devouring insectoids continue to harm the Taichu. One less was one less, so he continued to explore. The black disk of the universe-devouring insectoid was boundless and had a powerful evil aura. He could faintly sense a trace of the Insectoid Commander's aura, but it was just a remnant. It was indeed not there. This is too strange. After searching the entire initial Big Yen insect's blackboard, other than the 12 golden white giant cocoons, Lin Feng found nothing. Destroy this blackboard? Lin Feng couldn't do it. It was equivalent to destroying an entire universe. The primordial Big Yen insect's blackboard's energy was terrifying, and it contained the will of the insect race's Grand Commander. It could easily exhaust his energy. Lin Feng swept through the initial Big Yen insect's blackboard one more time. Only after he had thoroughly explored every nook and cranny did he leave. Big brother! Seeing Lin Feng come out, Shirwanli was pleasantly surprised. Lin Feng shook his head. The insectoid commander isn't inside. Not here? Shirwanli was astonished. Then where is he? Was the information given by the Yao Tuo leader fake? The information is true, and so is the initial Big Yen insect's blackboard. Lin Feng stared at the initial Big Yen insect's blackboard. Its astonishing devouring power was absorbing the universe's energy and nurturing the insectoids. If it wasn't for the fact that the Void Tuo realm had a huge amount of energy, it would have been sucked dry. But the insectoid commander isn't here, that's also true. Shirwanli fell into deep thought. Lin Feng was also hesitant because this was very strange. If it was him, if a powerful life form entered his internal universe and was threatened, he would definitely appear. Even if he couldn't destroy the initial Big Yen insect's blackboard, if he continued to consume the initial Big Yen insect's blackboard's energy, the insectoid commander would be injured. But he still didn't appear. There were 3 possibilities. First, he doesn't care about my threat, but if that's the case, he could just kill me. Isn't he afraid that I'll spread this secret? I can't do anything to him, but the first marshal might. Second, he's in some kind of trouble, or he's experiencing something important and can't split himself to deal with me. Third, he has other intentions. Lin Feng was more inclined to the latter two. And no matter which possibility it was, from the current situation, the insectoid commander might not be in the Miluo wilderness. But if he wasn't in the Miluo wilderness, where could he be? He waited patiently. Lin Feng wanted to think carefully and figure out this matter. His intuition told him that this discovery was very important. The insectoid commander might be planning something, or there might be something he didn't think of. On the other hand, Lin Feng also wanted to see if the insectoid commander would appear. Because he knew he was here. Shirwanli continued to wipe out the insectoids. These time-devouring insectoid emperors and space-splitting insectoid kings were all born from the insectoid commander. They were descendants with strong life characteristics, but strong life characteristics didn't mean true strength. When they encountered Shirwanli, who had the power of a top-tier universe dominator, they weren't his match at all. Soon, they were all wiped out. The entire third level of Su Tuo territory was empty. Everything seemed to have returned to its original state. Lin Feng didn't see the insectoid commander. "What should I do, big brother?" Shirwanli asked. "Let's leave first." Lin Feng thought for a long time but couldn't come up with a good idea. The insectoid commander's whereabouts were a mystery, and he didn't have many clues now. He could only rely on Yao Tuo Horde leader's map. Okay. Shirwanli spread his wings and flew without obstruction. "Should I inform the first marshal?" Lin Feng nodded. "Of course. And I have to tell the first marshal about the deal with Yao Tuo Horde leader. Also, I want to ask about the current situation of the war. If the insectoid commander isn't in trouble, then he might be plotting something. There's a high probability that it's war." Shirwanli pondered. "Big brother, you mean Shirwanli is at the front lines and wants to take down Qinjing in one fell swoop?" "That's quite possible," Lin Feng said. "The Big Yen insects have been killed one after another. The insectoids are weak, and the balance of the war is tilted. At this time, the insectoids are all attacking. It's normal for the insectoid commander to want to break the balance." "Fortunately, Big Brother didn't ask the first marshal to come," Shirwanli said. Lin Feng said, if the first marshal comes, the Miluo realm's defense will be exposed, and the insectoid commander might take advantage of it. No matter how the insectoids struggle in Miluo realm, they only have one goal, and that is to leave Miluo realm. So, as long as we can guard the entrance to Miluo realm, we won't have to worry about the insectoids. We might have a chance. Flying quickly, Lin Feng told Shirwanli about his guesses and concerns. After the latter understood and opened the void to a realm, Lin Feng planned to follow the map given by Yao To horde leader and eliminate the big yen insects one by one. While waiting for the insectoid commander, he did some things to reduce the threat of the insectoid plague. Swoosh! Lin Feng and Shirwanli flew out of the void to a realm and returned to the chaotic space. Mu Shan and Lin Feng's figures landed in front of him, but Lin Feng's eyes widened and he was stunned. The first marshal? Chapter 3056. Lin Feng didn't expect to meet the first marshal here. When he was in the Su To realm, he wanted to inform the first marshal after he came out. He didn't expect to bump into him now. Swoosh! Lin Feng stared at Mu Shan and Gusoboron. The latter instantly felt awkward. Don't blame him. Mu Shan was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle it, so he told me everything. The first marshal helped him out. I came here after much consideration. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I'm sorry, Brother Lin Feng. Mu Shan quickly apologized. It's fine. Since it had already happened, there was no point in pursuing the matter. Lin Feng roughly understood Mu Shan's thoughts and concerns. Marshal, do you know what the situation outside is like? The first marshal said, it's not a big deal. Ever since you killed the Dian insect, the core of the insectoids suffered a heavy blow. Plus, they couldn't suppress our defenses, so their strength and morale weakened. They are no longer as brave as before. The insectoids have been on the decline for more than 10 eras, so their attacks have decreased. They have always been small skirmishes. I hope I'm overthinking. Lin Feng sighed softly. The first marshal looked at Lin Feng. He seemed to know a lot. Lin Feng said, forgive Lin Feng for being presumptuous. I didn't inform you because there are many things I can't confirm. I don't know if they are true or false, including this time when I entered the Su To realm. False? The first marshal frowned. From Lin Feng's tone and expression, it didn't seem to be good news. It's not false. Lin Feng said, after entering the third level of the Su To realm, I did find the initial Dian insect and killed all the insectoids in it. However, I didn't find any traces of the insectoid commander. Initial Dian insect? The first marshal was shocked when he heard this. He said anxiously, are you sure? This had always been the key to the battle between the Taichu and the insectoid. As long as they found the initial Dian insect and destroyed the source of the insectoids, the insectoid plague would no longer be invulnerable. The first marshal was confident in this. I'm sure. Lin Feng was resolute and decisive. This was definitely not an ordinary Great Yen insect blackboard. This was because Lin Feng found 12 Great Yen insect cocoons in the initial Great Yen insect blackboard. These were not things that an ordinary Great Yen insect blackboard would have. Bring me there. The first marshal was surprised and delighted. Just as Lin Feng was about to agree, the first marshal's expression suddenly changed. He seemed a little displeased, but he quickly regained his composure. Seeing Lin Feng look over, the first marshal said, Kaler, reporting that the insectoids have begun a new round of attacks. There's no time to lose. Let's enter the void to a realm first and find the initial Great Yen insect blackboard. A new round of attacks. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, his expression dignified. The timing of the insect attack this time is too subtle. Marshal, you must be on guard. I didn't see the insect commander appear in the initial Big Yen insect's black plate. He is likely not in the Miluo wilderness. You mean? The first marshal's voice was low. He had a bad premonition. Lin Feng looked straight at the first marshal. Luring the tiger away from the mountain. I don't know if Overlord Yao Tuo has any connection with the insectoid commander, but the insectoid commander has set up a trap. He wants us to find the initial Big Yen insect blackboard and lure you out to destroy the initial Big Yen insect blackboard. Thus, swoosh. The first marshal's expression changed. He had experienced many wars. When Lin Feng said this, he understood that the Miluo Tu realm that he had been guarding was indestructible. Even if there were countless openings, he still defended it firmly. The insectoid Grand Commander had never appeared before. This was not the insect race's way of fighting. The insect race had not relied on the abilities of the insect race's Grand Commanders in the calamity that had once shocked the primordial sea. This was not the strength of the insect race. The insect race relied on their overall combat strength and their endless reproduction ability. Therefore, the first marshal dared to take risks and enter the Miluo wilderness. However, this time, he was tricked by the insect commander. Inform the second marshal immediately. Ask him to come immediately. The first marshal contacted Kalar and Hongmeng marshal and shouted, "You 8 marshals must guard the entrance. I will return immediately." There was no time to waste. The first marshal knew how serious the problem was. Once the entrance to Miluo Tu realm was broken, the insect army would enter. Taichu would repeat the disaster of Taishu. However, Taishu's disaster was not a human's fault. If this bug disaster were to erupt, he would have to bear the greatest responsibility. Shua. Almost instantly, the first marshal left. He displayed his power as a pinnacle universe dominator. His speed was terrifying. His aura disappeared instantly, leaving behind Lin Feng and the other 3 with serious expressions. The air seemed to have frozen. After a long period of silence, Lin Feng, Shirwanli, Mu Shan, and Baizhou Borun all had their own thoughts. "I'm sorry." Mu Shan finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. As the commander of Dragon Mountain region, Mu Shan was very experienced. He knew the current situation very well. To put it bluntly, he could not escape the blame this time. "I'm responsible too." Baizhou Borun lowered her head. She had the same thoughts as Brother Shan. She only hoped that nothing would happen to Lin Feng. She didn't expect the aftermath to be so complicated. Lin Feng didn't say anything. It wasn't the time to ask who was responsible. From the first marshal's point of view, this decision could not be considered wrong. It could only be said that everyone looked at the problem from different perspectives. He only represented one person, so any decision he made could be direct and simple. However, the first marshal was the commander of an army. Any decision he made would affect the overall situation. The first marshal didn't want to miss out on the discovery of the initial De Yen insect. Even if Mu Shan didn't inform him, the first marshal would most likely enter Miluo wilderness after hearing the news. This was a great opportunity to cut off the source of the bug race. The first marshal couldn't be blamed. It could only be said that the commander of the bug race understood people too well. Mu Shan informed the other 11 teams of Taichu Dominator elites to rush to the entrance of Miluo Tu realm immediately. This might be the main attack of the bug race. "Our Taichu forces should be more powerful," Lin Feng said. "Okay," Mu Shan replied. "We will do our best." Baizhou Borun nodded. Lin Feng nodded. Then, he stepped onto Shirwanli's back. Lin Feng followed the first marshal's footsteps and quickly rushed to the entrance of Miluo Tu realm. The insectoids had calculated the first marshal's whereabouts perfectly. When the first marshal reached the Su Tu realm, they launched their attack. If the insectoid commander didn't plan this on purpose, it wouldn't make sense. There couldn't be so many coincidences. Everything was a setup. The first marshal of the bug race is very powerful. Although he was an enemy, Lin Feng admired him from the bottom of his heart. He didn't hesitate to expose the location of his initial De Yen insect. When the situation was bad, the first marshal finally found a good opportunity. Chapter 3057. Milieu to Realm Entrance. The first marshal isn't here? What a joke. It can't be, Kalar. You didn't even say anything when the first marshal left? The other 7 Hongming marshals were extremely dissatisfied. They were guarding the 4 small entrances and didn't know that the first marshal had left. They only knew that the first marshal had entered the Milieu wilderness not long ago when the insectoids attacked again. Everyone, calm down. I have already reported the situation to the first marshal. The marshal is rushing over. Marshal Hongming calmly said, "This matter will be decided by the marshal himself. If you have any questions, you can ask him personally when he returns." The Hongming marshals didn't say anything. It was the first marshal's fault that he didn't give them an explanation. However, it was a little too much for them to question the first marshal's decision. Also, I have already informed the second marshal. The marshal is rushing over. During this period of time, please guard the entrance. Marshal Hongming had a serious expression. Okay. We will do our best. We will not let the insectoids take a single step in. The Hongming marshals' morale was high. Although they were on the defensive side, they still had the upper hand in the battle against the insectoid. The insectoids' repeated attacks didn't have any effect. This unknowingly increased the morale of the Taichu army. When 2 armies fought, morale was very important. Black Python. Marshal Hongming spoke. Here. Black Python Hongming replied. You will guard the main entrance with me. The entrance of Milieu to Realm had 1 main entrance and 4 smaller entrances. Originally, the 8 Hongming marshals were divided into 2 groups, each guarding a small entrance. The first marshal guarded the main entrance. Now that the first marshal wasn't here, guarding the main entrance became the most important. The pressure from the insectoids was the greatest here. Okay. Black Python Hongming replied straightforwardly. Before the reinforcements arrive, everyone must hold on. The Taichu will depend on everyone, Marshal Kalar Hongming said earnestly. His expression was solemn, and the hundreds of antennae on his forehead fluttered. He still hid some information, but if he revealed it now, it would only disturb the morale of the army. Everything was unknown. Furthermore, Marshal Kalar Hongming was still worried. Now that the first Grand Marshal was not around, the spies in the army would be even more unscrupulous. The implications of this battle were too great. If what the Marshal said is true, and this is a trap set up by the insectoids. Marshal Hongming Kalar let out a long sigh, and his 100 antennae drooped down slightly. This time, the Taichu will probably be doomed. A new round of war broke out. The insectoids had been resting for more than 10 eras. This time, the outbreak was rather fierce. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, the insectoids had clearly come prepared this time, and there was a sense of conspiracy everywhere. The first Grand Marshal's whereabouts were hidden, and only Marshal Kalar Hongming knew about it. However, this didn't mean that Marshal Kalar Hongming was a spy from the insectoids. If the spy is a general of the Taichu, it will be hard for him to know about the first Grand Marshal's whereabouts. However, if the spy is one of the 8 great marshals of Hongming, he will definitely be able to find out about the first Grand Marshal's departure. Furthermore, even if there isn't a spy, this trap set up by the commander of the insectoids can be estimated. The insectoids are spread throughout the entire Milieu to realm. The first Grand Marshal can't avoid all of them. As long as he sees one, the commander of the insectoids will know. Especially after entering the Milieu wilderness, the first Grand Marshal will have nowhere to hide. Lin Feng and Shirwanli were rushing towards the entrance of the Milieu to realm. Although they might not make it in time, Lin Feng believed that they weren't in a desperate situation yet. The insectoids were also fighting with their backs against the wall. If they could turn the situation around, the Taichu could do the same. Big Brother, do you think the insectoids will succeed this time? Shirwanli asked. They already have the upper hand. Lin Feng was very calm. The army doesn't have a leader. The Taichu factions only want to protect themselves. There aren't many who are willing to contribute to the Taichu. If there are a few more powerhouses like the first Grand Marshal, the insectoids won't be a threat anymore. If I were the commander of the insectoids, I would definitely send out all my elites and attack all 5 routes. At the same time, I would find the weakest route. With the commander of the insectoids personally leading, I would send more troops to take it down. It sounds like the army is in danger, Shirwanli said worriedly. Will the first Grand Marshal be able to make it in time? He won't be able to, Lin Feng said. The commander of the insectoids set up this trap. How can the first Grand Marshal be able to make it in time? The only chance now is to inform the army or the powerhouses of the other factions to resist this situation. In the secret realm, they couldn't use teleportation because the environment was different from the world. However, they could teleport in the Hongmeng Sea. As long as a powerhouse was willing to help, even if it was just for a short while, the insectoids might be able to retreat. The prerequisite was that this powerhouse couldn't be weaker than the first Grand Marshal. Milieu to a realm entrance. Boom. 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 Large battles erupted in all 5 routes. As the entrance of the main route, it received the greatest impact from the insectoids. Many big yen insects appeared and fought with Kalar and the black python at close range. These big yen insects were quite strong. They weren't something the Taichu generals could fight against. The pressure on the other 4 routes was far less than the main route. The main route was wide enough and easy to attack but hard to defend. Just as Lin Feng predicted, the insectoids didn't choose one route but all 5. As long as they could take down one route, the insectoids would have an overwhelming advantage. Hold on, Black Python. Hongmeng Marshal Kalar was dealing with 2 big yen insects at the same time. The Hongmeng army, under the leadership of the Taichu generals, defended against the universe-devouring insect king and universe-splitting insect king. On the other side, the pressure on the Grand Mist Marshal only increased. Similarly, there were 2 great yen insects. One of them waved its arm like a battle blade, creating a sharp sound as it sliced through the air. The other great yen insect used an illusion technique to greatly affect the Grand Mist Marshal. I know. Black Python Hongmeng's words were concise. He knew how important he was. The first Grand Marshal wasn't here, so the 8 Hongmeng marshals couldn't make any mistakes. Even if he died, he had to hold on. Boom, boom, boom. The battle became more and more intense. The insectoid commander still hadn't appeared. The pressure on the main route continued to increase. Even without the insectoid commander, the route was on the verge of collapsing. At this moment, the first Grand Marshal was still far away. However, there was more than one marshal in the army. Crack! A huge net instantly appeared at the entrance. Purple electrical energy filled the net. A large amount of Hongmeng's energy gathered and repaired the defense that was on the verge of collapse. Hongmeng Marshal Kalar and Black Python Hongmeng's eyes instantly lit up. They had finally received reinforcements. Second Grand Marshal. Marshal Hongmeng Kalar revealed a weak smile. Chapter 3058. Blade shatters the Milky Way. Mayday leave, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 3059. There were 2 Pinnacle Universe Masters in the army. One was the first Marshal, and the other was the second Marshal. In terms of power, the first Marshal was naturally stronger, and he was firmly in second place. However, the second Marshal was only slightly weaker than the first Marshal. His power wasn't inferior in any way. Horan? When W? Aina. Calm. Iluan, that useless fellow. In the end, he still has to rely on me. The second Marshal appeared in his purple robe. Lightning flashed in his hands. He instantly repaired the defense that was already on the verge of collapse. Thunder God! The second Marshal's attacks were ferocious and swift. He controlled the level 7 primordial laws. The god of thunder appeared in the void once more. A lightning hammer filled with violent electricity smashed down. Countless insectoids were killed by the lightning. Hong, hong, hong. The arrival of the second Grand Marshal not only stabilized the defense of the main passageway, but also greatly reduced the pressure on Marshal Caller and Marshal Black Python. Two of the great yen insects flew towards the second Grand Marshal, making ear-piercing noises. Idiot! The second Marshal was naturally disdainful. Why would he care about these bugs? If Lin Feng could easily kill the big yen worm, so could the second Marshal. If the first Marshal was willing to put down his pride and beg him for help, the second Marshal would have come to help him a long time ago. It wasn't that he didn't have a righteous heart. It was just that he had been competing with the first Marshal for the position for many years. No one was willing to give in to the other. The second Marshal wasn't a petty person. This time, the moment the first Marshal asked, he immediately came. That was why he was able to arrive in such a short time and maintain the defense of the main tunnel. In the army you could compete and compete. However, this matter concerned the Taichu. The bigger picture was more important. Xiao. A beam of light pierced through Mi Luo Tua territory. The first Marshal was moving at full speed. He knew how serious the situation was, so he would rather lower his head and contact the second Marshal. The moment Mi Luo Tua territory was lost, the consequences would be unimaginable. Luckily, Pang Yu, the second Marshal, made it in time. The first Marshal had already received news from Hongmeng Caller. Although the battle was still very intense, the second Marshal's arrival had alleviated the imminent danger and allowed the army to regain their footing. Even so, the serious expression on the first Marshal's face didn't disappear. After talking to Lin Feng for a long time, especially after he calmed down, the first Marshal felt even more anxious and uneasy. He knew very well that the insectoids were serious this time. The insectoid Grand Commander's actions and preparations were all for this war. Originally, the insectoids could have slowly dismantled the army's defenses, but who would have thought that a freak like Lin Feng would appear and silently dismantle the insectoids' core forces? The big yen insect had suffered huge losses, and the insectoid commander had no choice but to launch an attack. The insect race, which had been cultivating for more than 10 eras, had accumulated enough power. Moreover, they had even gathered the great yen insects for this attack. From Hongming's message, the first Grand Marshal could clearly feel the determination of the insectoids. This time they were serious. This is the key. If we can block this wave of attacks, we will definitely have the upper hand. The loss of the great yen insects is huge, and the great yen insect commander's great yen insect black has been exposed. Although the Miluo Tua realm is huge, it is very difficult to completely exterminate the insect race. It may take 1,000,000 eras, but with the help of the Yao Tua clan, the insect race has nowhere to hide. Success or failure would depend on this battle. The first Marshal knew very well that he could see the importance of this battle, and so could the great yen insect. Because of this, the great yen insect didn't hesitate to expose the location of the great yen insect and lured it into the Miluo wilderness, creating a weakness in the defense of the entrance. If he didn't guess wrongly, the great yen insect was definitely in the midst of the attack. If I was the great yen insect, I wouldn't attack the main tunnel. I would definitely attack one of the 4 smaller tunnels. The first Marshal knew what to do, but the army was currently under the control of the second Marshal, so all the decisions were made by the second Marshal. He could give suggestions, but he couldn't control and interfere with the second Marshal. That was because his position was the same as the second Marshal's. I hope Pang Yu can hold on, the first Marshal thought to himself. He didn't care if the second Marshal took his credit or his own safety. He just hoped that the situation wouldn't become irreversible because of his mistake. If the entrance to Miluo Tua realm was destroyed, the Taichu insect disaster would erupt. He wouldn't be able to absolve himself from the blame even if he died. The entrance to Miluo realm was facing an unprecedented attack from the insect race. The great yen insect, which had never appeared before, also joined the attack, catching the army off guard. With the large number of universe-devouring insect emperors and universe-splitting insect kings as the main force, the insect race's attacks became stronger and stronger. Not only did they have an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, but they also didn't lose to the army in terms of quality. The first marshal wasn't here. Although the second marshal had taken over, he couldn't arrange everything as well as the first marshal in such a short time. Also, the insect race's attack this time was much stronger than before. There was too little time left for the second marshal. The army's estimation of the insect race's strength was completely wrong. With the strength of the insect race's past attacks, they naturally wouldn't be able to hold on. Luckily, the Hongmeng army had a strong enough foundation. There were many Taichu generals and Hongmeng marshals defending. These were all Universe Dominator level beings, including many of the generals who had Universe Dominator level abilities. In terms of individual combat ability, the army was still rather outstanding. The Hongmeng marshal had used all of his trump cards and the 4 small passageways couldn't hold many soldiers. Although the situation wasn't very optimistic, the army was still able to hold on. However, the bug race's commander had yet to appear, causing the Grand Mist marshals to be unable to put down their worries. No one knew which tunnel the insectoid Grand Commander would appear in. Would it be the 3rd and 4th pathways guarded by only one Hongmeng marshal, or the 1st and 2nd pathways guarded by 2 Hongmeng marshals? Waiting for a chance. The 2nd marshal was extremely arrogant. As he guarded the main pathway, he commanded the entire situation. The bug race commander will appear in the 3rd and 4th pathways. As long as the defenses of any of the pathways are relaxed, the bug race commander won't let go of this chance. Why don't Black Python and I go to the 3rd and 4th pathways? Marshal Hongmeng Kaler asked. No need. The 2nd marshal's eyes sparkled. A proud smile appeared on his face. Don't you think that if the bug race commander appears in 2 small pathways, the defenses will be easier? But isn't it a little risky? Marshal Hongmeng Kaler hesitated. What are you afraid of? The 2nd marshal snorted. As long as the bug race commander appears, I will kill him to prevent future troubles. This insect plague will be completely ended by me, Pang Yu. Iluan, he is still too inexperienced. Chapter 3060. At the entrance of Miluo realm, the battle was in full swing. The army and the insectoids were in a stalemate. The Taichu Dominator elites, the 1st Marshal, Lin Feng, and the other experts who had rushed over from the Miluo wilderness were also doing their best. After Lin Feng gave his instructions, Mu Shan immediately informed the other 11 groups of Dominator elites to head to the entrance of Miluo realm. He and Baluo Borun were also participating in the battle. Mu Shan still felt a little guilty. The decision was made by the 1st Marshal, but he also had a lot of responsibility. The fastest was naturally the 1st Marshal, but Lin Feng was not slow either. Shirwan Li's innate ability was quite strong. Hongmeng's power was enough to resist the pressure of Miluo realm. His flying speed was only slightly slower than the 1st Marshal's. Big brother, has the insectoid commander appeared? Shirwanli was also paying attention to the direction of the battle. Not yet. Lin Feng had been in contact with the 1st Marshal and knew the direction of the battle. Although it was very likely that he and the 1st Marshal would not be able to make it in time for this battle, they could not come to a conclusion so quickly. The army's foundation was still there. Now that the 2nd Marshal had arrived, the insectoid commander might not succeed. If he had absolute confidence, he would have appeared long ago. I hope the army can hold on. Shirwanli also did not want the Taichu to fall. No matter what, he had lived in the Taichu for a long time and had some feelings for it. There will be no problem. Lin Feng comforted him. Although he said that, Lin Feng did not have any confidence. This time, the insectoids came out in full force. The insectoid commander was clearly serious. How could it end so easily? Although it was raining heavily now, the real thunderstorm had yet to arrive. Once it erupted, it would be hard to predict. Milieu to Realm, entrance. Main passage, second Marshal, Marshal Kalar Hongmeng, Marshal Black Python Hongmeng. First passage, Marshal Mosai Hongmeng, Marshal Wali Hongmeng. In the second passage, Marshal Huai Hongmeng and Marshal Udi Li Otter Hongmeng. The third passage, Tadamo Hongmeng. The fourth passage, Marshal Beimeng Anji. Among them, Marshal Kalar Hongmeng and Marshal Black Python Hongmeng were transferred from the third and fourth channels. Marshal Beimeng Anji was the strongest of the 8 Hongmeng marshals. He had no problem guarding the fourth passage alone. As for Marshal Hongmeng, he was not as strong as Marshal Beimeng Anji. After Black Python Hongmeng was transferred away, the pressure on the third passageway was the greatest out of the 4 passageways. Even the arrival of the second marshal didn't alleviate the pressure. Damn it! Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng was covered in injuries. The pincer attack of the 3 Taichu bugs made it hard for him to defend. Even though he had several generals under him, the bug army was too huge. The Hongmeng army's numbers were far from enough. What is the second marshal doing? Hurry up and release the Black Python. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng had sent out reinforcements long ago. However, he still hadn't received any help from the main passageway. Hong. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng tried his best. However, it was a pity that he was outnumbered. The situation didn't improve at all. This time, the bug army had caught the army off guard. Especially with the appearance of the great yen bugs, it was extremely important. Every single one of them was at least as strong as a pinnacle universe ruler. They could only fight. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng had no way out. The moment the third passageway was breached by the bug army, he would become the Taichu's eternal sinner. This responsibility was something Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng couldn't bear. Even if I die, I won't let you bugs take a single step forward. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng's eyes were bloodshot. He crazily attacked and stubbornly defended. At that moment, the 3 bugs couldn't do anything to him. One man against the pass. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng overdrew his body's energy and used his willpower to hold on. At that moment, a terrifying evil energy suddenly descended. Without a sound, it caused Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng's mind to go blank. He fell into endless darkness. Behind the bug army in the third passageway, an incredibly huge great yen bug suddenly appeared. It was high above. There was a huge golden sarcoma on its head. Its 12 blade-like arms were twice as thick as a normal great yen bug. A terrifying killing intent emanated from it. Its eyes were filled with intelligence. Its entire body was covered in golden veins. It seemed to be more noble than the silver veins of normal great yen bugs. Its bloodline was purer. Ao. Its long golden tail was raised up high. It was like an emperor giving an order. At that moment, the 3 bugs surrounding Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng seemed to have found their backbone. Their strength increased and crazily tore apart Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng's defenses. The sudden explosion caused Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng to lose his defense. His internal universe was devoured. Marshal! Lord Marshal! Brother Tadamo! No. All the Taichu generals and commanders were shocked. Tadamu and the primordial chaos great general were instantly killed by the arrival of this enormous insect. The momentum of the primordial chaos army collapsed like an avalanche. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng was the core of the Hongmeng army in the third passageway. The experts in the army knew very well what his death meant. The third passageway was about to be lost. The balance of the war between the army and the Zergs finally tilted. After losing their first marshal, the army's formation and defense had a flaw. The Zergs took advantage of it. Under the command of this new emperor-like great yen bug, they directly broke through the army's defenses. It's the Zerg commander! Damn it, the Zerg commander has appeared! Everyone, fight! We can't let them succeed. Hold on for a while longer. Reinforcements will be here soon. Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng had fallen, but the Hongmeng army did not give up. The Taichu generals and powerful beings, no matter how weak they were, fought with all their might to buy time and opportunities. Chi. The insect race commander was cold and merciless. His 12 blade-like arms could kill almighties as easily as chopping vegetables and meat. His greenish-white eyes were filled with ambition. Wherever he looked, there would be illusions. He alone could wreak havoc on the entire Hongmeng army. 3 great yen bugs led the charge towards the most heavily guarded entrance. After losing Marshal Tadamo Hongmeng, the remaining shrimp soldiers couldn't stop the Zergs at all. Once they broke through the entrance, the Zerg army would be able to enter the Taichu territory. At that moment, sizzle, 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 a purple lightning net instantly appeared in the originally weak space. It was filled with a huge amount of energy. With a loud boom, the image of the thunder god descended. It was extremely majestic. A pair of thunder hammers smashed down and smashed 2 great yen bugs into pieces. Hua, the second marshal, was like a god descending from the heavens. He stood proudly in the air and looked at the insectoid commander with disdain. He smiled coldly. "I've been waiting for you for a long time, insectoid commander." Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 3061. The 2 marshals in the army, Yi Luan and Pang Yu, were both pinnacle universe dominators. In terms of power, there wasn't much of a difference. Although the second marshal was slightly weaker, the difference wasn't by much. However, the 2 had different styles of doing things. Yi Luan was meticulous in his actions, and he had the aura of a general. Pang Yu acted on his own and was too arrogant. His way of leading the army was even more unconventional. Hence, the army god valued Yi Luan and made him the first marshal. Although Pang Yu wasn't satisfied, he had no choice but to be second. This time, he finally got the chance. Pang Yu wanted to prove to the army god that he wasn't just the second marshal. He had the right to be the first marshal. Go and die. Pang Yu unleashed the perfect level 7 Hongmeng Law, Thunder God. Lightning covered the entire area and went straight for the bug commander. He didn't care about the illusion at all. The title of the second marshal wasn't for nothing. In terms of willpower, how could he be trapped by an illusion? He, Pang Yu, was the third in command in the army. Ja. The bug commander rose from the ground. His huge body didn't slow down at all. His attack speed was frighteningly fast. No matter how much lightning hit him, he was still as steady as a rock. His defense was indestructible. The 12 blade arms contained terrifying energy. It was completely different from the energy of the second marshal. When they clashed, mountains and rocks crumbled. Under the lead of the bug commander, the morale of the bug army was high. Many big yen bugs crazily attacked the third channel's defense. With only the second marshal alone, it seemed like he couldn't protect everything. You underestimate the Taichu. The second marshal smiled confidently. Very quickly, 2 top-notch masters appeared behind the purple lightning net. One of them was wearing green armor and looked extremely ferocious. His terrifying strength wasn't any weaker than the second marshal's. The other one had a white transparent body that was faintly discernible. Her bright eyes were like the sun. The moment she appeared, the illusion around her instantly disappeared. Methane and Bai Li Zi. Within the army, there were 2 other top-tier universe masters who were on par with the 8 great Hongmeng marshals. Although there were only 8 Hongmeng marshals in the army, there were 10 top-tier universe masters. The other 2 were Methane and Bai Li Zi. Methane, in particular, was ranked above the 8 Hongmeng marshals. He was even known as the third marshal. As for Bai Li Zi, she was a newly promoted top-tier universe master. When the second marshal came to the Miluo To realm, he brought these 2 along as his secret weapons. Now it was time to reveal his trump card. Boom! Rumble! The addition of methane and Bilezi immediately stabilized the rear defense of the third channel. The charge of the Dian worms was stopped. Methane took the lead while Bilezi guarded the purple electric net. Their cooperation was flawless. Although the second marshal always did things his own way, it didn't mean that he didn't know how to lead an army. Since he was here to take over the first marshal's mess, he was naturally fully prepared. Pull Marshal Kalar Hongmeng and Marshal Black Python Hongmeng out of the main passage? Doing so would be putting the cart before the horse. The bug commander had to be lured out and killed, but with one large and 4 small passages, nothing could happen to any of them. Stopping the bug commander didn't mean that everything would be fine. The moment one of the passages was broken, the bug commander would rush in and the entire Taichu would be in great danger. From the looks of it, the second marshal's plan was not only successful, but it was perfect. After this battle, everyone will know that I, Pang Yu, am the true number 1 marshal in the army. Pang Yu's eyes shone brightly. His battle intent was boundless as he continuously attacked the insectoid commander. His morale was high. The first passage, with Healy and Moci, the 2 great Hongmeng marshals guarding it, even though there were many Dian worms attacking, Healy and Moci, one attacking and one defending. They led the Hongmeng army and guarded the entrance. Healy has appeared. Moci Hongmeng was covered in sharp spikes. His defense was extremely strong. I know. Marshal Wali Hongmeng's entire body seemed to be on fire. Even though she was a woman, her attack power was extremely strong. Not a single bug under her had a complete corpse. The bug commander had appeared in the third passage. The second marshal's ambush was a success. These 2 pieces of news instantly spread. Not only the first passage, the second passage, the fourth passage, and the main passage all knew about it. It raised the morale of the Hongmeng army even higher. They were invincible. To the 8 great Hongmeng marshals, the appearance of this news made them feel more at ease. They had always been paranoid, not knowing if their close friend who had fought alongside them was an insectoid spy, or if an insectoid commander had sneaked in. But now, all the mysteries had been revealed. The entire army was united. There was no bug spy inside. Ha. As long as we defend, we will definitely win. Moci Hongmeng let out a hoarse laugh. Come, He Li, help me. I'm a bit tired from blocking these 2 Dian worms. Okay. Marshal Wali Hongmeng's movements were clean. In an instant, a fire phoenix appeared in the void. It swooped down and went straight for the Dian worms. With He Li's help, Moci Hongmeng naturally went all out. How could 2 mere Dian worms stop him? The sharp spear shot out. Moci Hongmeng's attack power increased greatly. His body swelled a little, and his face turned red. Ha! Moci Hongmeng was about to explode when his face suddenly changed. His red face turned white, and his eyes widened in shock. Pooh! A terrifying red light enveloped him. The unpleasant sound of the Dian worms rang in his ears. Moci Hongmeng felt the universe in his body being eaten away. His life force was quickly draining away. No! Moci Hongmeng opened his eyes. He only saw a blood-red light. Boom! Without giving him any chance, Marshal Wali Hongmeng descended from the sky. His face was expressionless, and his beautiful eyes were cold. His pure white arm pierced through Moci Hongmeng's body. The 2 Dian worms surrounded Marshal Wali Hongmeng, seemingly celebrating. Suddenly, Marshal Wali Hongmeng's eyes turned cold. The 2 Dian worms hesitated and rushed to the first entrance. Hua! Marshal He Li and Hongmeng's eyes flashed with a strange light. The entire territory was enveloped by the fiery red light. Marshal He Li and Hongmeng seemed to have been injured as well. She spat out a mouthful of blood and was incomparably heavily injured. No. Everyone, hold on! Hold on, we can't let the bugs. Chaos ensued. Following the fall of Marshal Wali Hongmeng and Moci Hongmeng, it was hard for the Taichu generals to stop the attacks of the bugs. The Dian worms were even more powerful than the Taichu generals. The trump card of the Taichu army had already been used by the second marshal. The first passage, like a great river flowing east, instantly fell into the enemy's hands. Boom! The Hongmeng army guarding the entrance was scattered by the bug. The entrance to the first entrance completely collapsed. Chapter 3062. The first passage had fallen. What? Impossible! How could this be? The news instantly spread like a plague. That was the first passage, the largest passage in Miluotuo realm other than the main passage. The number of insects in this passage was also the highest. When the first passage fell, the insects rushed out of Miluotuo realm recklessly. The Taichu was already shrouded in terror. This time, even if the army had the ability to reach the heavens, they were unable to turn the situation around. Damn it! Damn it! The second marshal was hysterical. His anger soared into the sky as he attacked the insect commander. However, the latter's strength was not inferior to his at all. Moreover, his condition was extremely good. He was not moved by the battle at all. It was as if everything was within his expectations. His greenish-white eyes looked over. It seemed to be mocking and disdainful. Did the insects underestimate the Taichu too much? Or did the Taichu underestimate the insects too much? Hiss, hiss. The first marshal, who was flying at high speed, trembled all over. It was fear. It was fear towards the insects. However, it was not fear for himself. It was fear for death. It's my fault. It's my fault. The first marshal gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with extreme pain. He did not blame the second marshal. The latter was here to help. How could he blame the second marshal for not being able to stop the insects? He blamed himself. If he had not been impulsive and rushed for success, the insect commander would not have had the opportunity to take advantage of. As the marshal, he had to take full responsibility. There's still hope. There must be a way. The first marshal's gaze was blurred. At this moment, he was like a walking corpse. He could not accept this shocking news and did not know how to deal with it. Even though he was the marshal of an army, he was lost and hesitant at this moment. It was all his fault. Second brother. Lin Feng's voice was low. Did something happen, big brother? Shirwanli was calmer than Lin Feng. Yes. Lin Feng frowned and looked into the distance. He sighed. In the end, we still can't avoid it. Lin Feng and Shirwanli had already guessed this outcome. Ever since the insectoids set up a trap and lured the first Grand Marshal into the Miluo wilderness, this result was destined. Although the second Marshal arrived very quickly, he had just taken over after all. He wasn't familiar with the various aspects of the operation. Also, his abilities were inferior to the first Marshal's. Changing the commander before a battle was a great taboo for military strategists. They're underestimating the insectoids too much. Shirwanli hit the nail on the head. Yes. From the various details and arrangements of this war, it was clear that the intelligence of the insectoid commander was outstanding. It was definitely not inferior to the first Grand Marshal. From the very beginning, he had secretly crossed Chen Song in Hongmeng's 1,000 Perception Mountain to secretly developing and strengthening in Miluotuo territory. Even after being caught off guard, the insectoid commander was still able to counterattack and break out of the encirclement. This showed how capable the insectoid commander was. Everything was going according to his plan. Besides, the insectoids are more united than we are. Although the Taichu were also united, all the major factions had their own selfish motive. This time, Mu Shan privately informed the first Grand Marshal because of his own selfish motive. Lin Feng knew this very well. However, the insectoids weren't like that. The insectoids only listened to the orders of the insectoid commander. They were like an arrow. Wherever the arrowhead pointed, the arrow would fly. Clean and neat. The Taichu didn't lose unjustly. Lin Feng wasn't as dejected as the first Grand Marshal. Instead, He felt relieved. Lin Feng only represented himself. He wasn't like the first Grand Marshal who carried a lot of burden and was under a lot of pressure. Also, Lin Feng wouldn't give up so easily. Since it was already the truth, there was no point in thinking about it anymore. Since the problem had appeared, what he should do was to find a way to solve it. He shouldn't wallow in self-pity. Big brother, what do you plan to do? Shirwanli asked. Let's go to Miluo Tua territory first and meet up with the army. Then, we'll make a decision. Lin Feng didn't know too much about the current situation. He only knew that the first passage had been destroyed. He didn't know anything else. The entrance of Miluo Tua realm was in chaos. The various Hongmeng marshals and Taichu marshals were all fighting against the insectoid. They were racing against time. Even if he asked now, he wouldn't be able to get anything out of them. Plus, the situation on the battlefield was constantly changing. It might not be a hopeless situation. The situation during Tai Shi's calamity was even worse than now. Didn't we still survive? When the heavens close a door, they will definitely open a window. There's always a way out. The first passage was destroyed. The second Grand Marshal and the insectoid commander couldn't win. The most senior marshal, Kalar, Hongmeng Marshal, temporarily took over the position of Grand Marshal. At this moment, he couldn't care less about taking over other people's affairs. He put his own interests aside. Everything he was doing now was to minimize the losses. Huahui, Black Python, immediately head to the third passage to provide support. Marshal Kalar gave the order. Marshal Huahui, who was in charge of the second passage, was a little hesitant, but he still quickly rushed to the third passage. Only Marshal Udi Hongmeng was left in charge of the second passage, and the pressure on him increased. With Black Python leaving, only Kalar was left in charge of the main passage. The pressure on him was even greater. Originally, the number of insectoids in the main passage was the highest. However, Marshal Kalar Hongmeng had no other choice. Destroying one passage meant death. Destroying two passages also meant death. If all the insectoids in the third passage broke through, the scale of the Taichu insect calamity would be even worse than Tai Shi's calamity. Now, he could only gamble. If only a small portion of the insectoids could break through the third passage, after the Miluo Tua realm insect calamity was settled, there would still be hope for them to track down the traces of the insectoids. I hope we can make it in time. Marshal Kalar Hongmeng ordered the troops while requesting for support. Although the pressure on the main passage was the highest, and the insectoids were the highest, it had an advantage that the other four passages did not have. That was that the main passage could directly teleport over. Previously, the various Taichu factions had watched the situation develop, not willing to send out experts. Now that the Miluo Tua realm had been broken, they would be extremely stupid if they did not make a move. Were they really going to watch the Taichu perish? If these super factions are really so stupid, what difference does it make whether I save them or not? Marshal Kalar Hongmeng's 100 antennae flickered as he fought against the insectoid army alone. His body was covered in injuries. With his strength, it was impossible for him to defend the main passage. However, Marshal Kalar Hongmeng was willing to endure this hardship. He had his own beliefs and his own will. As a soldier, as Marshal Hongmeng, he had to set an example. The other Taichu generals, army commanders, and almighties were all using their own bodies to form a wall of flesh to resist the insectoids. What reason did he have to retreat? Marshal Kalar Hongmeng was not afraid of death. As long as it was for the Taichu, for his own beliefs, what was there to be afraid of? If I kill one more, the Taichu will have a bit more hope. Marshal Kalar Hongmeng relied on his strong will to support his broken body. Around him, there were a total of 5 big yen insects. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 3063. Blade Shattering Stars is having a fever. It's in your hands right now. Please wait for a moment. Once the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 3064. The arrival of Marshal Hongmeng and Marshal Anaconda Hongmeng stopped the collapse of the first passage. The two Hongmeng marshals stood on the left and right, and they single-handedly raised the defense of the first passage. The Hongmeng army, which had been routed, suddenly had a backbone, and they reorganized their formation to resist the insectoids. "Everyone, hold on! We can't let any more insectoids break through. Damn insectoids, fight them to the death!" The Hongmeng soldiers were hysterical, and they fought even harder. The destruction of the first passage was a huge blow to them. Although the Hongmeng marshals and Taichu marshals had to bear the greatest responsibility, the soldiers were also filled with guilt. They knew very well what kind of disaster the insectoids would bring to the Taichu army. They had to make up for their own mistakes. Under the command of the two Hongmeng marshals, the first passage's Hongmeng army erupted with tyrannical strength, and the insectoids who had taken the initiative were once again pushed back, and they firmly defended the first passage. However, this was not just the credit of the two Hongmeng marshals. When the first passage was destroyed, a large number of insectoids had escaped, causing the strength of the first passage's insectoids to plummet, and many Dian insectoids had already left. "Leave this to me. Quickly return to the main passage, Anaconda," Marshal Hongmeng ordered, his eyes blood-red. "Just Kalar alone is not enough to defend the main passage." "Okay." Anaconda Hongmeng did not beat around the bush. After stabilizing the first passage's defense, they immediately rushed back to the main passage. Because of the collapse of the first passage, a huge hole had appeared in the army's defense, and the pressure from the army was like a mountain. They had to hold on. If the insectoids were allowed to advance any further and completely collapse, then there would be no medicine left. Kalar. When Anaconda Hongmeng returned to the main passage, he saw a shocking scene. Out of the 8 Hongmeng marshals, the oldest and most experienced Hongmeng marshal, Kalar, was flickering with white light, and the hundreds of antennae on his forehead bloomed like the sun. "No!" Anaconda Hongmeng was furious. "Farewell, everyone." Kalar Hongmeng had a faint smile on his face. His life force had been completely exhausted, and he had held on until now under the encirclement of 5 Dian insectoids. There was no way to continue. With Kalar Hongmeng's strength, even if he used endless energy, he would not be able to defeat 5 Dian insectoid. Barely holding on until now was his limit, and he was only using his will alone. He had no regrets. Bang! Kalar Hongmeng. Kalar had Hongmeng. Used, Kalar used, and the encircling him, Kalar Hongmeng, Kalar. More importantly, Kalar did not give the Dian insectoids the chance to devour his internal universe. Even if he had to die, he wanted to die with a bang. Swish! The black python Marshal Hongmeng's eyes widened in anger as a thick and vigorous black light streaked across the air in a perfect arc. It was like a soul-hooking chain as it shot towards one of the great yen worms that had been blasted away. A tyrannical energy wrapped around it like a black python. One of the Dian insectoids was caught off guard and was instantly killed. Pooh! Loo! The remaining 4 Dian insectoids shot out green and white light and instantly attacked Anaconda Hongmeng. Although there was 1 less insectoid and Kalar had been slightly injured, 4 Dian insectoids against Anaconda Hongmeng was still an overwhelming advantage. "You leave first, Kalar. I, Anaconda, will join you soon." Although Anaconda Hongmeng was not good with words, he was still a man of steel. He clearly knew his responsibility. Since he had come to the main tunnel, he would have to face the strongest attack of the insectoids. Anaconda Hongmeng had died, and he was not stronger than Kalar. Anaconda knew what the outcome would be. However, this was not a reason for him to retreat. There were some things that he knew would lead to death. He had to do it. Boom! Anaconda exploded with all his strength. At this moment, he did not have any other thoughts. He had to do his best to delay the insectoids and guard the main tunnel with his body. Desperate, the insectoids were attacking with all their might, and the army was defending at all costs. Anaconda Hongmeng was only the tip of the iceberg. It was only because he was Anaconda Hongmeng that he was especially conspicuous. In fact, every elite soldier in the army was fighting like this. Even if they only had a bit of strength left, they would still defend the front line. The insectoids would not retreat. They were fighting with their backs against the wall. The insectoid commander knew the situation of the insectoid. The big yen insects were killed one after another, and there was a huge gap in the core strength of the insectoid. If he did not break out of the encirclement, he would definitely be slowly eaten up by the Taichu. Fortunately, he succeeded. Ever since they broke out of the first tunnel, the insectoids had already achieved their goal. Now they were just expanding their advantage. Even if they could not completely defeat the army, they hoped to open up another tunnel. At the very least, they would be able to delay the army so that they would not be able to chase after the insectoid. Whoosh! Whoosh! The insectoid commander and the second marshal were fighting fiercely. Their strength was on par. Not only did he restrict the insectoid commander also wanted to break out of the encirclement. However, the second marshal's strength still made him suffer. Although he could not defeat the second marshal was still able to hold him back. Although the second marshal's overall plan was a failure. However, at the very least, the second marshal had contributed quite a bit in dealing with the insectoid commander. Currently, in the army, other than the second marshal, no other cultivator could stop the insectoid commander. You want to go out? If you have the ability, you can run over my corpse. The second marshal gritted his teeth and attacked the insectoid commander furiously. He did not give him any chance to escape. He already knew that the first tunnel had been broken. He also knew that as the commander, he would not be able to escape the blame. Because of this, he could not let the insectoid commander escape again. He had to reduce the losses to the minimum. This was the common goal of all the soldiers in the army. They did not want to win this war because they had already lost. They only wanted to lose less. If fewer insectoids broke out of the encirclement, the Taichu's losses would be reduced. In the future, their chances of quelling the insectoid disaster would be higher. Quick, quick, quick. The first marshal, Lin Feng, and 12 groups of Taichu Dominator elites were all rushing at full speed. They were doing their best to rush to the entrance of Miluo to a realm. It was better to be late than never. We're almost there, second brother. Lin Feng could faintly feel the smoke of war filling the air. Yes. Shirwanli, who was rushing at full speed, did not need to hold back like the first marshal. He only needed to send his elder brother, Lin Feng, as soon as possible. As for the battle, he did not need to participate at all. Okay. Lin Feng was already prepared for battle. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Before he reached Miluo to a realm, he sensed it once again. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Chapter 3065. The sensing was getting clearer and clearer. It was getting closer and closer to the entrance of Miluo to a realm. Lin Feng was very clear about what this meant. The insect race commander. After absorbing the Big Yen insect blackboard, I can indeed sense the insect race commander. Lin Feng had always held a trace of doubt that he could not sense the insect race commander in Miluo Wilderness. Whether it was in Hongming's 1000 Perception Mountain or in Miluo Wilderness, he could sense it. But when it came to the insect race commander, he inexplicably could not sense it. It was not that the insect race commander was special, nor was there a problem with the sensing, but that the insect race commander was not in Miluo Wilderness. If I could be sure that there was a problem with the sensing, and knew that the insect race commander was not in Miluo Wilderness, perhaps the insect race commander's plan would have failed. Lin Feng felt some regret. Almost, just a little bit. At this point, all he could do was try his best to remedy the situation. Standing on Shirwan Li's back and overlooking the cruel battlefield, The endless corpses of the insect race and the Hongmeng army clearly showed how fierce the war was. The insect race had done their best to break out of the encirclement, and the Hongmeng army was not to be outdone. In order to defend their territory, they had suffered heavy losses. "Should we stop here, big brother?" Shirwanli asked. "No, keep going." Since he had sensed the insect race commander, Lin Feng would not be entangled with the universe-devouring insect queen and the universe-splitting insect king, and went straight to the location of the insect race commander. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. Lin Feng had long wanted to meet the insect race commander. Milieu to Realm, Main Passage. Marshal Kaler Hongmeng did his best, and did not hesitate to sacrifice himself. Marshal Black Python Hongmeng took over the heavy baton, and similarly shouldered the heavy responsibility of the defense of the entire army with his own strength, firmly guarding the wide main passage. Covered in blood, he had no regrets. Each of the 8 great Hongmeng marshals was a man of steel, and would not back down easily. "Come on!" Marshal Black Python Hongmeng had a sinister expression on his face. His hysterical state was like that of a devil, but it deeply infected every soldier in the Hongmeng army, and they fought with their lives on the line. Even Hongmeng's marshal was leading the troops, so how could they slack off? For their beliefs, for the Taichu. Again and again, the battle formation was broken and reformed. With Black Python Marshal Hongmeng at the center, the Hongmeng army on the main passage erupted with astonishing cohesion and fighting power. They had an unyielding military spirit. The rewards of risking one's life and sacrificing one's life were valuable. Hongmeng's reinforcements had finally arrived. "Sorry, I'm late." The first to arrive were the powerhouses from the Skyswamp Alliance. Since the beginning of the war, they had sent a large number of powerhouses as reinforcements to fight the insectoids together with the army. After receiving Marshal Hongmeng's message, the Heavenly Swamp Alliance immediately rushed over to help. With universe rulers as the core, although there were not many of them at the moment, with the first batch of powerhouses arriving, there would naturally be a second and third batch. After that, the Dao Yen Palace, Geo Corporation, and Taichu Inquisition all rushed over to maintain the defense of the main passage. Although the situation was perilous, the various superpowers worked together to turn the tide. At this point, the defense of the main passage was once again restored. Marshal Hongmeng Kaler had made the right bet. This was because he knew that as the insectoids broke through the barrier and marched straight into the Taichu, the various superpowers would no longer be able to protect themselves. It did not mean that the other superpowers would be able to obtain more resources and more power in the Taichu just because their strength had weakened. That was not the case. The various superpowers knew clearly what the final outcome of the insectoid disaster would be. This was no longer a matter of self-preservation. The Geo Corporation, which had been watching from the sidelines, had also sent out a large number of powerhouses. The disaster of Taishur was still vivid in their minds. Hong! A huge light sword appeared in the void and descended from the sky. The Hongmeng airflow gathered at the tip of the light sword and shot straight into the sky. This was definitely the strongest force on the battlefield. A terrifying sound rang out as a Dayen insect was smashed into pieces. It was unstoppable. Goddamn insectoids! All the powerhouses raised their heads as though they were looking at a god. It was an Emperor Realm expert with 4 arms and a golden tail. The battle armor on his chest had a huge 1 character imprinted on it. His eyes were sharp, radiating light in all directions. 4 treasured swords had already been unsheathed, revealing their sharpness. The first marshal. He had finally arrived. Die! His green face was filled with killing intent. As he roared, he crazily attacked the Dayen insects as though he was venting his anger. When he saw the corpses all over the ground, especially Marshal Hongmeng Kaler's corpse, the first marshal was completely enraged. No wonder he could no longer contact Marshal Hongmeng Kaler. As the commander, the one who decided to fight against the insectoids, The first marshal knew what had happened. He could see through it with one glance. Anger filled the sky. Boundless sword energy surged as the first marshal started a massacre. It was as though he was possessed. Wherever the sword energy passed, the insectoids would be smashed into pieces. None of them were his match. The powerhouses of the various factions all retreated in case they angered this murderous god. "I'm here." The first marshal's voice was hoarse. It was filled with pain and self-blame. He glanced at the powerhouses of the various factions. "Everyone, please head to the other passageways to provide support. On behalf of the army, I'm very grateful." Although he was in pain, the responsibility on his shoulders was even heavier. The first marshal didn't have time to blame himself, nor did he have time to feel dejected. He was the commander of the army. He had to carry the entire army. No matter how bad the situation was, he had to face it. That was because he had no path of retreat. The Taichu had no path of retreat either. As the first marshal rushed to the main passageway and stabilized the morale of the army, the powerhouses of the various factions were injected with new blood. The Taichu's morale and strength increased. The pressure on the second passageway, which was in the most danger, instantly decreased. The fourth passageway also received reinforcements under the stubborn defense of Beimeng Anji. Most of the powerhouses gathered at the first passageway. They suppressed the remaining insectoids with their absolute strength. The scales of the war were tilted towards the Taichu's side. However, it was too late. Everything was already set in stone. The insectoid army that broke out of the first passageway scattered towards the Taichu. It was extremely difficult to find them. The apocalyptic disaster of Taisher appeared once again in the Hongmeng Sea. Even if I can't stop the spread of the insectoids, I can at least cause them to lose their leader. Lin Feng was getting closer and closer to the first passageway. His senses towards the insectoid commander became stronger and stronger. His blood boiled. Snow Jewel kept moving as though it could sense its master's fighting spirit. It wanted to fight. Lin Feng could already see the intense battle from afar. It was the second marshal and the insectoid commander. The golden flames and the evil and powerful aura gradually enlarged in front of his eyes. It was him,